Chapter 1862. The Crystal Palace, 2. Most of them had already earned enough spirit stones to last them through a day, and Yi Qingtang had already figured out how to win. But looking at how Bailey Shi and Mufero were doing, she felt she had to bring them to the Crystal Palace to collect themselves first. Furthermore, they had just escaped from the cursed mystic realm, and hadn't had much time to rest yet. It was better to reconvene for now. With that, Yi Qingtang led them all towards the Crystal Palace. Bailey Shi and the others willingly allowed themselves to be led by Yi Qingtang. The Crystal Palace was beautiful. Under the light, it sparkled and shimmered, reflecting the light that hit it. But on closer inspection, even though the palace was made from something similar to crystal, they couldn't see into the palace at all. The palace was hemispherical like a huge pot lid stuck on the ground. And while it was called a palace, it looked too rough and crude to be one. But it was already heaven compared to the stumps all around them. Walking over to the entrance of the Crystal Palace, Yi Qingtang raised her hand and knocked. Silence. The Crystal Palace was quiet, but Yi Qingtang waited patiently outside. After a long while the door slowly opened. As the door opened, a round stomach poked out from the inside. What a huge belly! Jiang Xiaobai blinked and looked at the huge, rounded belly in front of him. The Crystal Palace was at least 2 meters high, but all they could see was a huge belly. They couldn't even see a head. Who goes there? A low voice rumbled from within the Crystal Palace, as plumes of smoke floated out from the palace. It smelled extremely potent, and with its sensitive sense of smell, Little White Tiger immediately started coughing. Are you Fu Qiu? Yi Qingtang asked calmly. Would it be alright if we stayed a night in your Crystal Palace? You want to stay here? Fu Qiu's voice was impatient. How many of you are there? 4. Yi Qingtang naturally excluded Little White Tiger. 5,000 spirit stones. Fu Qiu threw out a number. All of them froze as they heard the amount. 5,000. But they said we would only need 500 each. The Fu Qiu rubbed his belly impatiently from within the Crystal Palace, his face still hidden from them. I set the price however I want. Get lost if you don't have enough spirit stones. With that, Fu Qiu lifted his hands to shut the door. It was the first time any of them were meeting a fat catfish with such a foul temper. It had neither shown them its face, nor taken a good look at them, before chasing them away. Yi Qingtang hadn't expected the fat catfish's temper to be this bad. Not only that, the price was a far cry from what they had expected. The extra thousands were nothing to Yi Qingtang, since she could just gamble for it. But she wanted to let Mu Ferua and the rest go in and rest first. Who knew what the fat catfishes would do to these people who only knew how to cultivate themselves? Wait. Well, stay. Yi Qingtang quickly said. Miss Yi. Mu Ferua and Bailey, she exclaimed. Fu Qiu paused as it heard this. Without lowering its head, it reached out with its fat claws. Give me the spirit stones as payment first. Chapter 1863. The Crystal Palace, 3. Quickly pooling all of their spirit stones together, it added up to about 3,000. It's not enough, Fu Qiu said immediately. Yi Qingtang spoke. Could you treat this 3,000 as a deposit, and let my 2 friends go in first? I'll go and gather the rest of the spirit stones. Bailey Shi and Mu Ferua froze as Yi Qingtang said this. They had already been prepared to give up. After all, they didn't have that many spirit stones, so there was nothing they could do if Yi Qingtang decided to leave them outside. They had not expected Yi Qingtang to let them go in first. Just as they wanted to retort, Yi Qingtang shot them a steady look. Fu Qiu was taken aback by Yi Qingtang's words. You want them to come in first? You should know that the sun is about to rise. If you don't have enough spirit stones, you're going to have to spend the day outside, and no one is going to save you if you die. That's not something you need to worry about. I have a plan, Yi Qingtang said. She looked at the situation Jiang Xiaobai and she was in. With their ability, winning 2,000 spirit stones before the sun rose shouldn't be a problem. As for Bailey Shi and Mu Ferua, they should remain obediently in the Crystal Palace for now. Fu Qiu fell silent for a moment after Yi Qingtang spoke, and finally bent down from within the Crystal Palace, revealing his head. He wanted to see what this selfless girl looked like. It was only at this moment that Yi Qingtang, and the other saw what Fuchio really looked like. Fuchio's body was huge, much larger than the other fat catfishes they had seen. It looked like a huge giant when it popped its head out. There was a small cigarette in Fuchio's mouth. It was approximately the size of a human, but looked extremely tiny in its eyes. Surprise flashed through its black beady eyes as it looked at Yi Qingtang. "Joer," Fuchio suddenly murmured. Everyone else looked surprised as well. But he quickly recovered, and his gaze swept over Yi Qingtang's body. It still looked a little confused, but the confusion vanished quickly from his eyes. It looked at the people beside Yi Qingtang and said, "I'll let 2 people enter for 3,000. Yi Qingtang was thinking the same thing, and pointed at Bailey Shi and Mu Ferwa. The two were unwilling at first, but Yi Qingtang told them straight up that they didn't have enough spirit stones. As such, it would be better for them to remain there for now so as not to be a burden to her and Jiang Xiaobai. Understanding that their skills would be useless here, Bailey Shi and Mu Ferwa could only agree reluctantly with awkward looks on their faces. Now they felt even more indebted to Yi Qingtang. They had never imagined that the little girl from the Jiang family, whom they had never even seen in the martial arts championship, would be their savior. Fuchio didn't say much about Yi Qingtang's decision, and only continued puffing on its cigarette. Its gaze on Yi Qingtang became more and more complicated. After persuading Bailey Shi and Mu Ferwa to go into the Crystal Palace, Yi Qingtang ran around gathering spirit stones with Little White Tiger and Jiang Xiaobai. Chapter 1864. Fuchio 1. Although Jiang Xiaobai didn't know how to gamble, his mind was much more flexible than Bailey Shi and Mu Ferwa. After one lesson from Yi Qingtang, he quickly got the hang of things, and they were completely in sync. By the time the first light of day broke, they had already gathered enough spirit stones and headed back into the Crystal Palace. Everything in the Crystal Palace was crystal clear. Yi Qingtang found that even though they couldn't see into the Crystal Palace when they were outside, they could see the outside clearly from the inside. Bailey Shi and Mu Ferwa had been waiting at the entrance all this time, and only breathed a sigh of relief once they saw Yi Qingtang and Jiang Xiaobai enter safely. Just for one day. If you don't have enough stones tomorrow, you'll all have to get lost, Fuchio said in a greedy voice as he puffed on his cigarette. His gaze kept deviating unconsciously to Yi Qingtang, his thoughts mysterious. Fuchio kept its word after receiving the spirit stones. It brought them underground of the Crystal Palace where there were many small rooms which looked like caves. They each had their own room. Jiang Xiaobai took this opportunity to slip into Yi Qingtang's room, where he ignored Yi Qingtang rolling her eyes at him, and refused to leave. Elder Sister Qing, please don't be mad. I know my mistake now. Aren't I here now to share the information I've gathered? Jiang Xiaobai said with a smile. What information? Yi Qingtang asked Jiang Xiaobai with her arms crossed. I managed to gather some information on Fuchio when I was gambling with the fat catfishes just now, Jiang Xiaobai said. Yi Qingtang lifted her eyebrows slightly. She was relieved that he was smart enough not to trust the words of the first catfish she met. I heard that they were originally nameless and lived underground. Fuchio is the only one in their clan with a name, and I even heard that it was given to it by a human. Jiang Xiaobai told her all the information he had gathered. In the beginning, Fuchio had been like the other fat catfishes, nameless and living underground. But over 10 years ago, a group of humans had entered this mystic realm by chance. At that time, there were no places to offer them sanctuary. It was rumored that while 10 people entered, there were only 2 to 3 left in the end. But there was a wise person among those who had survived. That person found Fuchio and somehow they became closer. Not only did the person give it its name, but they also pushed Fuchio to build the Crystal Palace. It was from then on that Fuchio's Crystal Palace became the only place that humans could seek shelter in this mystic realm. In exchange for reparation, Fuchio would allow them to stay. Fuchio had become the odd one out the moment it had gotten its name, and the other fat catfishes wanted nothing to do with it. But Fuchio had managed to earn a fortune by offering shelter to the humans, and had become one of the richest among the clan. Yi Qingtang was surprised to hear all this. She had met many fat catfishes along the way, and knew how stubborn they could be. Fu Qiu was the worst out of all of them, and she couldn't imagine it being set straight by any human. Chapter 1865. Fu Qiu, 2. So it was thanks to that person's intelligence that the Crystal Palace was built and existed until now. Luckily, Yi Qingtang and the others weren't forced to experience danger from the very first day they arrived in this mystic realm. Yi Qingtang spoke to Jiang Xiaobai. Jiang Xiaobai was already feeling a little sleepy. He wanted to stay over, but Yi Qingtang chased him out without any hesitation. On the other hand, Yi Qingtang wasn't sleepy at all. They had arrived for one day, but she hadn't felt any danger yet. But since the fat catfishes were all extremely afraid of the day, she couldn't help but feel curious. Even little white tiger was already asleep, but Yi Qingtang was still wide awake. She went up the stairs, standing on top of the Crystal Palace. From her vantage point, she could see the gradually rising sun. The fat catfishes quickly gathered and went underground after having a whole night's worth of fun. No one stayed behind. The bustling activity from last night burst like a bubble. "What are you doing?" A deep voice came from behind Yi Qingtang. Yi Qingtang turned around, seeing Fu Qiu right behind her. "You're not to come up during the day. Stay underground if you don't want to invite trouble for yourself." Fu Qiu sounded displeased. "What kind of scary monster appears in the day?" Yi Qingtang asked. "Keep your curiosity to yourself. If not, you can get out." Fu Qiu was completely cold and unfeeling, as though she was an overly curious burden. Since she was seeking shelter in its abode, Yi Qingtang naturally didn't want to come into a conflict with Fu Qiu. She merely bowed respectfully before taking her leave. Right when Yi Qingtang bowed, the jade pendant she wore around her neck fell out from her collar. The moment the jade pendant slid out, Fu Qiu froze on the spot, as though it had been struck by lightning. Only after Yi Qingtang left did Fu Qiu slowly collect itself. It turned around, taking big steps as it walked into the Crystal Palace. Fu Qiu finally arrived at a massive chamber. Inside, an abundant number of Dharma artifacts and treasures were displayed. These treasures had all been exchanged from the humans who came into the mystic realm. But somehow, the treasures that humans would fight so hard for was akin to trash here. Fu Qiu didn't even spare a glance at them and walked past it, coming to a corner of the chamber. Hanging on the wall was an old portrait that was in a poor condition. The portrait seemed to have been hung there for a very long time. Its colors had faded, but it was of a charming young girl. A delicate jade pendant hung right in front of the young girl's chest. If Yi Qingtang were to be there, she could see that the jade pendant the young girl wore was exactly the same as the one Yi Qingtang had. Fu Qiu looked at the young girl in the portrait. All the astuteness and greed in his eyes dissipated, and his eyes were filled with reminiscence. Jiu'er. Fu Qiu's voice was miserable. It knew that Jiu'er would never be able to come back here. But now it had actually met a young girl that resembled Jiu'er. The girl even wore the same jade pendant that Jiu'er used to wear. "Who is she? Jiu'er, did you send her here to look for me?" Chapter 1866. Fu Qiu 3. Fu Qiu was still pondering over it when it suddenly felt some violent shaking from the ground. It turned around, walking towards the front. Through the walls of the Crystal Palace, it could witness everything that was happening outside clearly. A black figure with a dominating presence was outside, and there were endless groaning sounds. Fu Qiu just bit on its opium pipe and watched quietly, just like it did countless times in the past. At that moment, Yi Qingtang was underground resting on the bed. She was still pondering over everything that had happened in the mystic realm when suddenly, the violent shaking was felt even underground, almost throwing her off the bed. Little White Tiger also woke up. "What the heck? What's wrong with this mystic realm?" Yi Qingtang had no idea either, but it seemed like Fu Qiu didn't want them to know about what would happen during the day here. Why was it such a secret? With the violent shaking, Yi Qingtang couldn't fall asleep at all. She sat up, taking out the remaining spirit stones she had. She heard from the fat catfishes that these spirit stones could be used for cultivation, and so she couldn't help but want to try it out. So she sat cross-legged, placing the spirit stone in her palm, and started cultivating. Soon, she realized that during her cultivation, The spirit energy in the spirit stones was slowly absorbed into her body. What was even more fascinating was, the energy in the spirit stones was very pure. It only took a while before Yi Qingtang felt a significant increase in the power within her body. She instantly felt energized. Initially, she had thought that it was a wasted trip to this mystic realm, but she hadn't expected to have discovered that the spirit stones could be used in cultivation. Calming her mind, Yi Qingtang ended up using all the spirit stones in her cultivation. The spirit energy within the spirit stones was slowly absorbed by Yi Qingtang's body, and at the same time, it lost its glowing luster. Now the used spirit stones were dim, and just like frosted glass. Time passed, and by the time Yi Qingtang absorbed all the spirit energy from the spirit stones, the violent shaking had stopped. After a bit, someone knocked on her room door. Fuqiu stood outside. When Yi Qingtang saw Fuqiu, she had a look of surprise on her face, but it quickly disappeared. "It's dark now," Fuqiu said with a cold expression on its face. "You'll only need to pay 2,000 spirit stones tonight. If you can't pay, get out now." Just as it said this, Bailey Shi and Mu Ferua walked out of their rooms and overheard Fuqiu's words. They were shocked. They knew for a fact that they had to pay enough spirit stones in exchange for their stay at the Crystal Palace. But when did this fat catfish become this understanding? Just yesterday, it had demanded 5,000 spirit stones, but now it was only 2,000 spirit stones? Did it suddenly become benevolent? Impossible. Everyone was confused by its act. Nevertheless, anyone who doesn't take advantage of these terms would definitely be a fool. Yi Qingtang's demand for spirit stones had naturally increased after learning that the spirit stones could be used in cultivation. "Okay," Yi Qingtang replied with a polite smile, and gathered everyone to head to the gambling town for more spirit stones. It was pitch dark outside the Crystal Palace. Now that the sun had set, the fat catfishes all came out of the underground holes, gathering around the stump with their large stomachs. Where do you think these fat catfishes get their spirit stones from? Do you think they dig underground for the spirit stones? I noticed that they don't seem to lack spirit stones, even after using so many every day. Jiang Xiaobai scanned around, noticing that the fat catfishes seemed to be bigger today compared to yesterday. Chapter 1867. Guest from the Second Domain, 1. It's quite possible that they dug the spirit stones from underground. Yi Qingtang looked around their surroundings, quickly deciding on a few fat catfishes with larger builds. She gave Jiang Xiaobai some instructions, and the two immediately started making their moves. Jiang Xiaobai was sharp-witted, and could quickly pick it up with ease. With Yi Qingtang's guidance, they didn't have to spend much time and effort to win big at the gambling town. Yi Qingtang even took Jiang Xiaobai with her, and they disguised themselves in order to not be recognized by the fat catfishes. But soon, Yi Qingtang realized that there wasn't even a need for her to do so. These fat catfishes had odd personalities. It seemed that they really had no other hobbies other than gambling. Even if they lost in a bet, they wouldn't be that affected, and would be energetic again in just a matter of time. She had witnessed a few fat catfishes having extremely bad luck, losing almost every bet, but they could still continue betting without feeling dejected at all. As for Yi Qingtang and Jiang Xiaobai, they weren't that obsessive over betting. Fuqiu hadn't demanded as many spirit stones this time, but after experiencing the benefit of using spirit stones in cultivation, Yi Qingtang wouldn't stop at just winning enough spirit stones for their stay at the Crystal Palace. She took Jiang Xiaobai with her, going around to win more than 6,000 spirit stones, before she finally stopped. With their disguised appearances, they prepared to head back to the Crystal Palace, when they spotted two figures right outside the Crystal Palace. It was a young girl with an exquisite appearance, standing in front of a tall, middle-aged man. They were debating over something with Fuqiu. When Yi Qingtang walked over, she saw the young girl's face flushing red from her anger. "Isn't it 500 spirit stones a day? Why did you suddenly raise the price?" The young girl's cheeks puffed up. "1,000 a day. If you can't pay, you can leave," Fuqiu said irritably. Yi Qingtang hadn't expected to meet another human here, but she wasn't interested in staying curious. She walked into the Crystal Palace with Jiang Xiaobai, taking out a few bunches of spirit stones and handing them to Fuchio. Fuchio counted the spirit stones, making sure it was enough before it let the two people in. However, when it saw Yi Qingtang's beautiful face become an extremely ugly one, it was stunned. What happened? It only took one night, and this last became so ugly? Fuchio was still shocked when the girl noticed that Yi Qingtang had a pocket full of spirit stones. Her eyes instantly lit up. Hold on. The girl called out. Yes. Is there anything I can help you with? Now that Yi Qingtang looked at the girl nearby, she noticed that the girl's facial features were incredibly good-looking and exuded a noble aura. However, she could sense that the girl was demanding and wasn't a fan of such people. You have many spirit stones. The girl's eyes landed on Yi Qingtang's pocket. Yi Qingtang raised her brows slightly. I'll exchange with you. Before Yi Qingtang could even answer, the girl signaled at the tall man beside her. The man stepped forward, taking out a huge amount of tails from the space ring. When she saw the tails, Yi Qingtang almost laughed out loud. Using tails in a mystic realm? Was she even normal? Chapter 1868. Guess from the second domain too. Apologies, I'm not interested. Yi Qingtang shook her head as she declined politely. The girl hadn't expected Yi Qingtang to reject her so quickly. Seeing that the sky was slowly turning brighter, she couldn't help but feel worried. Hold on, it's fine if you don't want to take the money. What about Dharma artifacts or elixirs? I'll give you anything you want in exchange for the spirit stones. Just name it. The girl was talking big. Yi Qingtang was amused by the girl's crude ways. If they weren't in the mystic realm, Yi Qingtang would definitely agree to exchange the spirit stones for the Dharma artifacts and elixirs. However, after learning that the spirit stones could be used in cultivation, such material possession no longer interested her anymore. Nothing mattered more than making herself more powerful. I'm sorry, I'm not interested in the things you're offering. The girl's face stiffened, stomping her feet angrily as she shouted. I don't care, you must exchange them with me. Yi Qingtang shook her head as she watched the girl throw a tantrum. Not wanting to bother with the girl any longer, she took Jiang Xiaobai and Little White Tiger with her into the Crystal Palace. The tall man frowned as he looked at the skies. He stepped forward, putting away the money, and taking out 2 bottles of elixirs from the space ring. Young Miss is young and insensible. Everything happened suddenly, and we don't have enough time to prepare the spirit stones needed. We know that it's very dangerous here in the day, and I was wondering if you could show mercy and exchange some spirit stones with us. These 2 bottles of miracle pills are a token of appreciation for you. I will make sure to return the entire sum of spirit stones after tonight. The man's voice was deep, but his words were extremely pleasant to the ears. Yi Qingtang wasn't intending to be nosy, but when she heard the words miracle pills, she froze. Miracle pills? Wasn't that a supreme-grade elixir that only existed in the second domain? When Yi Qingtang looked at the 2 of them carefully again, she noticed that the man had an oppressive aura, though it was quite subtle. She was stunned. This man's skills, he was at the paragon level. Hearing how the man addressed the girl, he obviously held the position of a bodyguard. A holy venerate who could easily take out 2 bottles of miracle pills. How could he be a mere bodyguard? Although Yi Qingtang was surprised by their identities, she tried her best to not show it. She had only heard of the miracle pills, which is a supreme-grade elixir in the second domain in her previous life. Such an elixir would allow one to achieve remarkable progress in cultivation in a short amount of period. Moreover, the elixir would boost one's performance, no matter the cultivation type. The miracle pills was said to be a portable sacred item for cultivation. Even powerful clans in the second domain wouldn't be able to easily land their hands on it. Where exactly did these 2 people come from? Though Yi Qingtang had planned to keep the spirit stones for her cultivation, if she could land her hands on the miracle pills and have it act as a complement to the spirit stones, it would increase the effects of her cultivation efforts. It was tempting. You'll return me the spirit stones tomorrow? Yi Qingtang pretended to be calm as she asked. The man nodded. Fine, how many do you need? Who cared about that girl's nasty temper? This holy venerate was way more pleasant, and his offers were far more attractive to Yi Qingtang. Chapter 1869. Guess from the second domain 3? 1,000, the man answered. Yi Qingtang handed 1,000 spirit stones over to the man at once. Even if he didn't return the spirit stones, it was already an amazing deal to get 2 bottles of miracle pills for 1,000 spirit stones. The man secretly heaved a sigh of relief when he took the spirit stones from Yi Qingtang. While the girl's face was thunderous, she glared at Yi Qingtang with lustrous eyes, looking like she wanted to strangle Yi Qingtang to death. Long Yi, how could you just give the miracle pills to her so easily like that? The girl was extremely displeased. Young miss, we have to compromise since we need help. We came here to look for Miss Jiao, and we've even lost contact with young master. Your safety is our top priority now, Long Yi said. The girl was initially very displeased, but when she heard Miss Jiao, she calmed down in an instant. Is Aunt Jiao really here? The girl sounded excited as she asked. Long Yi couldn't exactly confirm it yet, but that was already the closest news. Miss Jiao disappeared after entering the mystic realm. Even if she's not here now, there must be some clues in this mystic realm. The girl pursed her lips, her arrogance disappearing, only to be replaced with a complicated mix of worry and hope. Fu Qiu only let them in after receiving the full sum of spirit stones. When the girl walked past Yi Qingtang and saw her ugly appearance, she frowned. Ugly freak. I won't bother with you. She wouldn't have had to put up with this if she hadn't lost contact with her elder brother. Ugly freak Yi Qingtang. She really had the urge to spank this lass. Jiang Xiaobai didn't say a word throughout the entire time. He merely looked at her with narrowed eyes. After a while, he finally lifted his head. Sister, listen. Yi Qingtang was puzzled. There's a crow making sounds, it's really noisy, Jiang Xiaobai said with an innocent expression. The only person to talk was the girl, and her face instantly darkened. You're saying that I'm a crow? Did I say that it was you? Or are you just having a guilty conscience? Jiang Xiaobai said with an innocent smile. The girl almost fainted from anger hearing that. Long Yi, the girl had never experienced such humiliation before. Right when she was about to flare up. Shut up. The sun is rising soon. If you don't want to die, scram the hell underground now, Fu Qiu ordered. The girl wasn't going to budge, but Long Yi held her back. Yi Qingtang, Jiang Xiaobai, and Little White Tiger went back to their respective rooms. Even after Yi Qingtang and the others had left, the girl was still fuming in anger. Long Yi could only advise. Young miss, we sought permission from master to come and search for Miss Jiao this time. Please don't be rash, and just put up with it for now. Our first priority is finding Miss Jiao. With the mention of Miss Jiao, the girl's anger instantly dissipated, and she bit down on her lips. Bunch of old fools, how could Aunt Jiao possibly betray us? It's been so many years, and they never once looked for Aunt Jiao properly instead of arguing all the time. Aunt Jiao might have suffered a lot outside, and yet they accused her like that. If I was Aunt Jiao, I also wouldn't go back if I learned that those old fools are accusing me. At her words, Long Yi could only sigh helplessly with a complicated expression on his face. Chapter 1870. Unexpected Discovery 1. Long Yi, promise me that when we find Aunt Jiao, you must protect her. We shouldn't force her to come back, understood? The girl's expression became stern as she looked at Long Yi. Understood. After returning to the room, Yi Qingtang took 1 dosage of the miracle pills. It had a bitter taste and the bitterness spread all the way to her throat. Almost immediately after, Yi Qingtang's entire body was abnormally hot, as though she was soaking in a tub full of boiling water. It only took a while before she was completely covered in sweat. Yi Qingtang could clearly feel her every pore being forced open from this surging energy. There was no time to waste. Taking the spirit stones, she started to cultivate. The effects of the miracle pills instantly showed. The energy in the spirit stones was instantly absorbed by Yi Qingtang's body and rushed madly. It was a significant improvement that left Yi Qingtang feeling surprised. The 1,000 spirit stones weren't wasted after all. As Yi Qingtang didn't want to waste any time at all, she quickly calmed herself and continued to cultivate. It only took 1 night for Yi Qingtang to use up more than half of the few thousand spirit stones they had won earlier. By the time she was done cultivating, her entire body was soaking wet, as though she had just come out from a tub of water. What surprised her even more was that as she perspired, she could see some dark grayish dirt coming out together. This miracle pills is capable of detoxification too? Yi Qingtang was pleasantly surprised. She could feel the energy within her body increasing rapidly, with the speed being faster by almost 3 times. Once the heavenly venerate realm reached the last few heavens, it would experience changes in its attributes, and likewise, the difficulty of cultivations would multiply and significantly increase. With the aid of the miracle pills and the pure spirit energy from the spirit stones, Yi Qingtang realized that she had reached a higher level, almost attaining the 5th heaven of the heavenly venerate. It was Yi Qingtang's first time experiencing such a remarkable difference after coming out from the illusory void. No wonder these miracle pills are so popular within the second domain. It is truly a precious treasure. A smile hinted at the edges of Yi Qingtang's mouth, and she wiped away the perspiration on her body. After changing into a clean set of clothing, she disguised her appearance into the beautiful face she had yesterday, preparing to win big again. Bailey Shi and Mu Ferhua felt bad for receiving so much help from Yi Qingtang, but they knew for a fact that they had no gift in gambling at all. All they could do was offer their Dharma treasures to repay her. Similar to the previous day, Yi Qingtang and Jiang Xiaobai waited until the sky turned dark, and they came up to the ground level of the Crystal Palace. But there was someone earlier than them. The girl and man from yesterday had already arrived before them. After the man said a few words to the girl, he headed outside by himself to work hard to afford their stay at the Crystal Palace. When the girl saw them, she didn't seem too happy. She merely made a soft humph sound before turning around and running towards Fu Qiu, who was biting on his opium pipe. Yi Qingtang and Jiang Xiaobai didn't bother with that diva, and they prepared to leave. Suddenly, they saw the girl taking a portrait out of the space ring and showing it to Fu Qiu. "Have you seen this person before?" Her voice was hopeful as she asked. Chapter 1871. Unexpected Discovery 2. With a slight twist of its head, Fu Qiu glanced over, but when it saw the portrait it was stunned. Yi Qingtang and Jiang Xiaobai also had a look when they walked past. Yi Qingtang froze on the spot when she saw the portrait. It was a portrait of an ethereal beauty. The beauty had distinct facial features, with a gentle smile on her face. It only took one look for one to unknowingly be mesmerized by her smile. What surprised her most was that the beauty in the portrait wore a jade pendant around her neck. Subconsciously running her fingers over her chest, the jade pendant in the portrait was the exact one she wore. "Sister Qing, why does the lady in the portrait look so similar to you?" Jiang Xiaobai was also shocked when he saw the portrait. The lady resembled Yi Qingtang, with the biggest difference lying in the aura they exuded. But their facial features were almost identical. When the girl heard Jiang Xiaobai's words, she turned around to look at Yi Qingtang's current face. When she saw the unsightly birthmark on the latter's face, her own darkened. "What nonsense are you spouting? How does Aunt Jiu even resemble this ugly freak? Go and see the doctor if you have bad eyesight." The girl lashed out at Jiang Xiaobai. She could never tolerate any slandering of Aunt Jiu. Jiang Xiaobai merely shrugged. "They really do look alike." The girl was about to explode, but Fu Qiu was in a corner, still in a daze. Yi Qingtang felt even more complicated. The jade pendant was left behind by her biological mother. Yi Qingtang had actually seen the same jade pendant in the portrait from Jiang Lang. Now the same jade pendant appeared in the portrait today. Jiang Lang and the others would always call Yi Qingtang's mother Jiu Yuan, while this girl called her Aunt Jiu. Could it be that Aunt Jiu was her mother? The speculation was startling, and Yi Qingtang mulled over the information in her head. The reason for taking part in the martial arts championship was to look for clues regarding her mother in the mystic realm. She had never expected such a turn of events. She had long given up after learning that everything would change every single time she entered the immortal footsteps mystic realm. But now, somehow, she had the opportunity to learn more clues about her mother. Her eyes then riveted on the frozen Fu Qiu, who was filled with shock. She recalled Fuqiu calling her Jiuer when it first saw her. Jiu Yuan, Aunt Jiu Jiuer. Could it be that after the reset of the Immortal Footsteps mystic realm, she had entered the mystic realm that her mother had visited before? She felt complicated. Somehow, Yi Qingtang could no longer hear the girl and Jiang Xiaobai's voices anymore. Everything pointed in one direction, and Yi Qingtang needed one more crucial clue to confirm her speculation. Averting her eyes from Fuqiu, Yi Qingtang collected herself before dragging Jiang Xiaobai out the door. That night, Yi Qingtang put her thoughts together as she won more spirit stones from the fat catfishes. Even Jiang Xiaobai could tell that she wasn't focused, but he didn't delve deeper. Only when the sky gradually turned brighter did they head back to the Crystal Palace. As promised, Long Yi returned the 1,000 spirit stones to Yi Qingtang. Chapter 1872. Unexpected Discovery 3. Yi Qingtang could sense that Long Yi and the girl had some understanding of this mystic realm, which was why they had an easier time around. Although she wanted to ask them about it, she didn't know how and where to start. If she made a wrong guess, it would become rather problematic instead. Even if her intuition was right, how could she possibly claim kinship with them, just based on her appearance and a jade pendant? If she did, it would possibly make them categorize her as someone with ill intentions. Yi Qingtang returned to her room and thought it through before she decided that it was best for her to ask Fuqiu about it. After calming her emotions, she cultivated for quite a while, and the ground would not stop shaking. Despite that, Little White Tiger was still able to sleep through it. Yi Qingtang wanted to wake it up so that they could go check things out together, but no matter how hard she pushed against it, Little White Tiger didn't wake up. That was strange. Yi Qingtang couldn't help but feel puzzled. In the end, she walked out of the room by herself, wanting to head inside the Crystal Palace and ask Fuqiu some questions. But when she came to the ground level of the Crystal Palace, sunlight littered in from outside. It was almost dawn and the lights outside shone everywhere, adorning the Crystal Palace with a layer of gold lights. Endless howls could be heard from outside the Crystal Palace at a supposedly peaceful time. The ground wouldn't stop shaking, almost to the point where it might just collapse. Lifting her eyes, Yi Qingtang was able to see outside. The scene before her rendered her speechless. Large shapes bit each other ferociously, making loud bestial roars. Fat catfish, Yi Qingtang said with widened eyes. Outside the Crystal Palace, countless fat catfishes had gone mad, fighting each other. Their bodies weren't green but were white now, and their eyes were devoid of emotions, unlike their characters in the dark. Yi Qingtang couldn't believe the scene before her eyes. The fat catfishes had told them that it was very dangerous in the day. Those who went out during the day never came back. But Yi Qingtang had never expected it to be like this. The monsters turned out to be the demonized fat catfishes. They would mingle around and have fun together at night, but during the day, they would lose all consciousness and become enemies. They opened their mouths wide, biting each other ferociously. Yi Qingtang could somehow see some gleaming spots when they bit each other. It dropped out from the wounds of the fat catfishes as they fought. Instead of blood, the fat catfishes didn't bleed when they were bitten. The limbs that were bitten off would turn into spirit stones. Spirit stones? Fat catfish? Yi Qingtang suddenly recalled Jiang Xiaobai's question from yesterday. Where did the fat catfishes get their spirit stones from? It wasn't from underground, but from the fat catfishes' bodies. Why did you come out? Someone screamed from behind. When Yi Qingtang turned around, she saw a huge figure coming in her direction. The green color of Fuqiu's had turned white instead. Its beady eyes had turned red. Its big mouth had saliva dripping down like a rabid beast. It was terrifying. Chapter 1873. Demonic. 1. You've seen it. Fuqiu tried to speak with difficulty, making weird sounds. Fuqiu was completely different from its usual self at night. It now exuded a dangerous aura from head to toe. Thump thump. Yi Qingtang's heart palpitated rapidly, darting back quickly to escape from them. She had no idea what had happened to these fat catfishes, but from what she saw, they seemed to be affected during the day. They loved gambling at night, When they had awareness, they weren't dangerous at all. But in the day, they seemed to have lost all reasoning and acted like baleful ghosts out for revenge. Yi Qingtang could finally understand why the fat catfishes were that afraid of the day. They themselves had no idea how they would become during the day. Fu Qiu's red eyes were fixated on Yi Qingtang, suddenly stretching its fat tongue out in Yi Qingtang's direction. Yi Qingtang leaped aside, dodging the disgusting tongue, and her gaze quickly landed on the underground pathway of the Crystal Palace. With full speed, Yi Qingtang rushed towards the underground pathway, but Fu Qiu was abnormally agile. Its salive-coated tongue also moved nimbly, wrapping around her slim waist when she tried to escape towards the underground pathway. Fu Qiu picked Yi Qingtang up with its tongue and slammed her against the wall in the Crystal Palace with a loud thud. She felt as though her body was going to fall apart. Although she couldn't determine how powerful the fat catfishes were, now that she had seen them in action, Fu Qiu's powers didn't seem to be any lower than the paragon level. Fu Qiu's face had turned into a grimace, wrapping its tongue tightly around Yi Qingtang's waist as it slammed her around. It suddenly curled its tongue, bringing Yi Qingtang towards the insides of its mouth. Was it fucking going to swallow her? Yi Qingtang was panicking. Seeing the huge and bloody mouth, she was suddenly engulfed in dark flames, shooting black flames from her palms into Fu Qiu's mouth. Fu Qiu's gaping mouth was just like a black hole, instantly swallowing the black flames once she shot it inside. At that moment, Fu Qiu's mouth seemed to have doubled in size, and half of Yi Qingtang's body was in its mouth. Fu Qiu's sharp teeth were about to bite down on Yi Qingtang's legs. Yi Qingtang's heart sank. Her attacks seemed to have no effect on Fu Qiu at all. Fu Qiu was just like a solid wall, absorbing all her moves without being affected at all. The next moment, Yi Qingtang felt pain in her legs. Fu Qiu had already bitten down, and looking at Fu Qiu's demonic eyes, she suddenly had an idea. She knocked her head against Fu Qiu's head. Bang! When Yi Qingtang knocked her head against Fu Qiu's, the jade pendant she wore around her neck slid from the resulting movement and appeared before Fu Qiu's eyes. At that moment, Fu Qiu froze. It stopped all of its attacks, looking at the jade pendant with reddened eyes. Yi Qingtang was shocked to see Fu Qiu stop moving. Seeing that Fu Qiu was in a daze, she quickly grabbed the opportunity and hit Fu Qiu's head with all her might, escaping from its mouth with her heart pounding. Chapter 1874. Demonic 2. Even though she had escaped, her leg was still imprinted with Fu Qiu's teeth marks. Outside the Crystal Palace, the light of dusk was slowly being engulfed by the darkness of night. But just as everything was about to turn dark, the fat catfishes slaughtering each other relentlessly outside seemed to be drawn to some force. As if possessed, they swept the spirit stones on their floor into their stomachs with their tongues, and plunged back into the earth without another word. It was as though none of that had ever happened. All traces of their battle above ground quickly vanished as well. Yi Qingtang panted softly as she kept her eye on Fu Qiu. The red light in Fu Qiu's eyes slowly faded as his deathly white skin gradually returned to its normal green. Its entire body suddenly relaxed. Was it back to normal? Yi Qingtang observed Fu Qiu carefully. Fu Qiu's head dropped downwards, and then suddenly lifted again. But this time, the ferocity on his face was gone, replaced by anger. Who said you could come up here? Fu Qiu's eyes were filled with clarity again, and it was staring at Yi Qingtang with intense anger. Storming over to Yi Qingtang, Fu Qiu grabbed her neck. Yi Qingtang had never expected to find out the fat catfish's secret by mistake. She dodged subconsciously as Fu Qiu reached for her. Fu Qiu didn't manage to grab her neck, but caught her jade pendant instead. Its anger subsided as it saw the familiar pendant. Where did you get this jade pendant? I'll throw you out if you don't tell me. Fu Qiu snapped with narrowed eyes. My mother gave it to me. Yi Qingtang already had her suspicions, but quickly replied to Fu Qiu's question now that it had asked her. Shock filled Fu Qiu's face as it lifted its eyes to look at Yi Qingtang. Although Yi Qingtang had changed her appearance, Fu Qiu had been shocked the first time it saw her. She looked just like a long time ago, the girl with a smile as beautiful as the fresh flowers in spring had shown herself in front of it with the same pendant. She had said before that the jade pendant was extremely important to her. Wuxia had wanted to touch it out of curiosity once, but had been rejected by her. Back then, she had said that only her family could touch the pendant. A similar appearance, and the same jade pendant. These clues flashed in Wuxia's mind. "Jiu'er is your mother?" Wuxia looked at Yi Qingtang. "Jiu'er." Yi Qingtang was hearing this familiar name once again. "Is the Jiu'er you're talking about called Jiu Yuan?" Wuxia froze for a moment, and thought for a while before nodding. The unease in Wuxia's heart subsided as Yi Qingtang said Jiu'er's name. Appearances could be altered, and the jade pendant could be a fake. However, Wuxia felt something familiar from Yi Qingtang. Even though Wuxia hadn't been able to confirm Yi Qingtang's identity before this, some of her blood was left in its mouth after it had bit her just now. Wuxia and the other members of its clan were the only creatures that could sense the familiarity from someone's blood so accurately. "You're Jiu'er's daughter. Where is your mother now?" Wuxia asked agitatedly after confirming Yi Qingtang's identity. Chapter 1875, Demonic 3. Wuxia wanted to see her again. All of these years, that was its greatest wish. Yi Qingtang shook her head. "I don't know." Wuxia froze as Yi Qingtang continued. "She left soon after my birth, and this jade pendant is the only clue she left for me. I entered this mystic realm because I knew that she had been here. I didn't mean to hide it. I want to know where she has gone as well." In both her previous life and this one, Yi Qingtang had not managed to see her mother. She really wanted to know what danger her mother had been facing to the point that she had left her newborn so soon after giving birth to her. Was her mother still alive? Wuxia's expression was complicated as it returned the jade pendant to Yi Qingtang. "You're in the wrong place," it said. "Your mother has indeed been to this mystic realm, but she didn't have you yet. Her appearance was sudden, and her departure was equally hurried." Up until now, Wuxia had not been able to forget the first time it had seen Jiu'er. If not for Jiu'er, it would still be ignorant of the truth like the others from its clan. It would be hiding forever, yet never able to escape from the danger. "Your mother was an extremely intelligent person. She was the first person to discover our secret, and even taught me how to control myself and build this crystal palace." A long time ago, Wuxia had been like the other fat catfishes, hiding underground from the terrifying monsters that roamed during the day. But Jiu'er had noticed something off about it. Jiu'er was intelligent and realized that Wuxia was smarter than the other fat catfishes. So she used all the information she had to help build the crystal palace with a special kind of crystal. As long as Wuxia stayed within the crystal palace, it would not have to worry about becoming a demon. It would be able to keep some of its awareness during the day as well. It was also because of this that Wuxia got to witness its own clan kill each other mercilessly several times. If not for Jiu'er, it would probably have become one of them, now knowing when it would die, and remaining clueless about the cause of its own death. Receiving and sheltering those who entered the mystic realm, and taking them in was the suggestion that Jiu'er had given Wuxia. 4 fat catfishes. The more power they stored in their body, the stronger they would be. The spirit stones were filled with such power, as were the Dharma treasures that the humans owned. When did she leave? Yi Qingtang's impression of her mother was growing as she spoke to Wuxia. Wuxia shook its head. "I don't know. I just remember that, on that day, an extremely powerful man entered the mystic realm, and Jiu'er left after that." Yi Qingtang frowned. She had originally thought that she would get clues about her mother here, but it seemed like she was going to be disappointed again. The information that she had gotten from the Jiang family was the same. Jiu Yuan had vanished without a trace after entering the mystic realm. No one in the second mainland had seen her since then. Based on what she knew, Jiu Yuan must have entered the mystic realm a few years before giving birth to Yi Qingtang, which meant that the few years in between were the key to discovering where Jiu Yuan had gone. And just like Wuxia had said, the powerful man was likely the last person who had seen her mother. Chapter 1876, Chasing 1. Yi Qingtang wanted to ask Wuxia more about the man, but it shuddered in fear at the mere mention of him. It could only shake its head and say that it remembered nothing about the man. It was as though Fu Qiu's mind had been wiped of all memories of that mysterious man. If not for its obsession with Jiu Yuan, Fu Qiu would probably not have remembered the man at all. Her lead had come to a dead end once again. But Yi Qingtang had obtained a crucial piece of information about her mother from Fu Qiu. Jiu Yuan had told Fu Qiu before that she was from the secondary domain. It said that Jiu Yuan seemed to be hiding from something that time, but hadn't told Fu Qiu more about it. At least Yi Qingtang could confirm now that Jiu Yuan was indeed her mother. Just as Yi Qingtang became lost in her thoughts, Long Yi and the young girl walked out from the underground. The young girl looked extremely sleepy, and she rubbed her bleary eyes as she looked at Yi Qingtang. Her nose wrinkled up with only one look, but they quickly caught sight of Yi Qingtang's blood-stained clothes. Long Yi didn't say anything, and merely greeted Fu Qiu before heading out to earn that day's spirit stones. The young girl crossed her arms, and stood there looking at Yi Qingtang's pathetic appearance. "It stinks." The young girl lifted her hand to fan the smell away, as though she was extremely bothered by the smell of blood on Yi Qingtang. As Yi Qingtang's mind was filled with her mother, she was in no mood to argue with the arrogant girl. But at this moment, Yi Qingtang saw the girl something at her. She lifted her hand instinctively to block it, and was shocked to feel something cold on her hand. When she lowered her head to look, she saw that it was a bottle of medicine. "It's an excellent healing ointment. Put it on quickly, or you're going to kill me with your smell," the young girl explained dismissively. Yi Qingtang looked at the medicine on her palm, and couldn't help but laugh. This girl had such a strange personality. She was obviously being kind, yet wanted to seem like she wasn't. "Thank you," Yi Qingtang said. Even though the wound from Fu Qiu's bite wasn't deep, it still hurt. The young girl harumphed. "I'm not wasting any time talking to you. I'm going back to rest." With that she turned and left. But at this moment, someone knocked frantically at the entrance of the Crystal Palace, and her footsteps halted. From the inside, they could see a row of people knocking on the entrance of the Crystal Palace. They looked to be in a bad state, with many of them injured. Fu Qiu looked annoyed. It seemed like whatever had happened just now had not made him any friendlier. He seemed to still have no interest in helping the human race at all. But the young girl's eyes widened when she saw who was standing outside. "Elder brother." The young girl rushed to the entrance, and opened the door before Fu Qiu could do anything. There was a young man on the other side of the door with a face as beautiful as the young girl's, but it was deathly pale. He had suffered heavy wounds, and could only stand with the support of his guards. He let out a pained smile when he saw the young girl behind the doors. "Yao!" With that he fainted and was caught by his guard before he collapsed. Chapter 1877. Chasing 2. This was the first time she had seen fear in the young girl's face. She let the guards bring her brother into the Crystal Palace quickly, with Fu Qiu's expression looking extremely ugly. But the bodyguards seemed aware of the rules of the Crystal Palace. Even with their heavy injuries, he had already prepared enough spirit stones beforehand, which he put into Fu Qiu's hands. Satisfied with the amount, Fu Qiu remained silent. The bodyguards brought the unconscious man to one side as the young girl knelt down beside him with a face full of worry. "What happened? How did my brother get this injured?" the young girl said fearfully. The bodyguard began to explain everything. From the side, Yi Qingtang listened in as well. It turned out that this young girl had entered this mystic realm with Long Yi and her brother. The way they had entered the mystic realm was different from Yi Qingtang and the rest, who had entered via the entrance of the Immortal Footsteps mystic realm. They had used a special method to force another entrance into the mystic realm, and broken into it. It was because of this that Long Yi and her had been separated from her brother when they entered the mystic realm. The young girl had managed to find the Crystal Palace with the help of Long Yi, but her brother had not been as lucky. Not only had he lost his way, but he also seemed to have met his enemies as well. Completely unprepared, they had suffered great losses. How did they know that we had entered the mystic realm? Who was the one who leaked the information? The young girl's expression turned dark after she had heard everything. Only a few people from their clan knew that they were entering the mystic realm to look for Aunt Jiu. So how did their enemies find out about it? "I'm not sure," but they were already in the mystic realm when young master found them. Young master said that they must have followed us and entered the mystic realm when we did, the bodyguard said with an awkward expression. The young girl's hands balled into fists. That damn 10,000 Poison Valley. I want rest until they die if anything happens to my brother. Yi Qingtang froze when she heard those words being mentioned. The 10,000 Poison Valley was an influential faction in the second domain, and the person who led it was known as the Poison Emperor. Yi Qingtang had no idea how this girl was related to the 10,000 Poison Valley, but she didn't know much about it in the first place. From what she knew, the 10,000 Poison Valley was made up of a group of crazy people who specialized in lethal poisons. Their poisons were often without an antidote, and they were extremely tough opponents to deal with. There weren't many in the second domain who would dare to provoke the 10,000 Poison Valley. It was easy to deal with someone who only had strength, but poison was harder to protect yourself against. It was rumored that one of the factions in the second domain had dared oppose the 10,000 Poison Valley, and within a night, everyone in the faction had been poisoned to death, with not a single life spared. No one was able to find out how, and when the 10,000 Poison Valley had poisoned them. I've finished with your ointment, you can have it back. Yi Qingtang looked at Long Yao's worried face and returned the medication they had given her. Long Yao looked at Yi Qingtang without saying anything and quickly put the medication on her brother's wounds. Sometime after this, Bailey Shi and the others who had woken up, eager to tell Yi Qingtang they were going out to earn spirit stones. However, they were then informed by Fu Qiu that Yi Qingtang had already paid for the day, and they did not have to go out for the day anymore. Chapter 1878. Chasing 3. Yi Qingtang glanced at Fu Qiu, knowing that it acted kindly towards them all for her mother's sake. Coincidentally, Yi Qingtang wasn't in the mood to go outside and gamble. Who are they? Mu Ferua glanced over at the bodyguards surrounding Long Yao. The guards were dressed in uniformed clothing, and although they just kept quiet and stood there, Mu Ferua could feel a strong aura from them. Yi Qingtang shook her head. She hadn't figured out Long Yao's identity yet, but Yi Qingtang felt that Long Yao might be related to her biological mother, judging from the portrait she took out the other time. But she hadn't confirmed anything yet, and could only continue observing. Bailey Shi could also sense their overpowering presence. Both he and Mu Ferua were alarmed, and they raised their guard. After receiving tremendous help from Yi Qingtang, they felt indebted towards her, and were very grateful. They trusted her very much, but everyone else in the mystic realm was not trustworthy, even if they were also human. They had witnessed too many incidents of people killing each other to satisfy their greed. When they entered the Immortal Footsteps mystic realm previously, they also witnessed people who came in together fighting with each other. These people appeared so suddenly, and were in large numbers. This made them raise their guards and become wary. Long Yao handed the elixirs to her elder brother, so that he could consume them. After some time, Long Yi also returned to the Crystal Palace, and once he saw the man's condition, his expression became complicated. He quickly requested Fu Qiu to provide a place to stay for the man and the other guards. Young miss, are they from the Poison Valley? Long Yi asked after settling everyone down. Long Yao bit down on her lower lip as she nodded. Her action made Long Yi's face cloud up. The Poison Valley must have come for Miss Jiu. All these years, they haven't given up searching for Miss Jiu. I'm afraid our plans must have been leaked to the Poison Valley. If not, they wouldn't have appeared so coincidentally, Long Yi said. Long Yao took a deep breath before replying. No matter what, we must not let them find Aunt Jiu faster than us. He's so petty despite his high status as the Poison Emperor. Luckily Aunt Jiu hadn't laid her eyes on him. I'd be disgusted if this person were to be my uncle. Yi Qingtang was taken aback after hearing Long Yao's words. Poison Emperor? The Aunt Jiu that Long Yao had mentioned repeatedly seemed to be Yi Qingtang's mother, but Yi Qingtang couldn't confirm it yet. But now, what did she just hear? Her mother had been involved with the Poison Emperor from the second domain before? Uncle. The corners of Yi Qingtang's mouth twitched. She had no idea what exactly her mother had done. But from what she knew, Her mother definitely caused quite some trouble. The Poison Emperor was of high status in the second domain. People of ordinary status would never be able to even get close to the Poison Valley. What had her mother done to have been involved with the Poison Emperor? Not only that, she could even infer from Long Yao's words that her mother even dumped the Poison Emperor. The vengeful, petty Poison Emperor had been dumped. The news left Yi Qingtang completely flabbergasted. But she quickly recalled that Fu Qiu had mentioned previously that her mother seemed to be avoiding something when she first entered the mystic realm. Could it be that her mother was avoiding the Poison Valley and the Poison Emperor? With even more clues about her mother surfacing, Yi Qingtang realized that things were getting complicated. Chapter 1879. 10,000 Poison Valley 1. Young miss, the most important thing now is that the people of the 10,000 Poison Valley are after us. I heard that they even sent Lu Rusu and Lu Jiangran this time. I'm afraid they're not giving up. Long Yi's expression was dark. Not many people knew about their secret plans this time. And they had only brought along a few people for fear that their plans would be leaked. Even though they had brought only their elite guards, it was obvious that the 10,000 Poison Valley had already known about their plans from a long time ago and wanted to launch a surprise attack upon their arrival. Who was the one who leaked the information? I'm going to skin them alive when I find out, Long Yao said through gritted teeth. Who exactly leaked the information? We won't be able to find out here, so we can only investigate thoroughly when we're back. Long Yi's expression was dark. Now that the 10,000 Poison Valley knew about their plans, getting out of this place safely would become even harder. Long Yao knew this as well. Panic filled her heart as she thought of her brother's critical injuries, and she went with Long Yi to investigate. Yi Qingtang's expression was complicated as they left. Fu Qiu noticed it, and threw her a silent look. On the pretext that they had something to ask, Yi Qingtang and Jiang Xiaobai secretly went to find Fu Qiu. Do you recognize those people? Fu Qiu suddenly asked them. Yi Qingtang shook her head. Fu Qiu said, when they first arrived, they showed a photo of Jiu'er to me. They seemed to be looking for her as well. Yi Qingtang nodded. She was there when Long Yao had taken the photo out. That young girl told me that Jiu'er is her aunt, who vanished after entering this mystic realm. Fu Qiu hadn't told Long Yao everything that it knew about Jiu'er. Jiu'er was extremely important to Fu Qiu. As it knew she was hiding from someone, it would not disclose information about her before confirming the person's identity. Fu Qiu trusted only Yi Qingtang, who was Jiu'er's daughter. I don't know what your mother was running from, but I know that I would still be as ignorant as the others from my clan if not for her. I want to find her as well. Fu Qiu sighed. Jiu'er's sudden disappearance meant that he had not had the time to even thank her properly. Do you have any clues about my mother with you? Yi Qingtang asked. It seemed like there were two clues regarding her mother's last sighting. The first was the powerful man who had appeared that year, and the second was the reason her mother had to hide. It was already impossible to find the man, but if Long Yao and the rest were from the same clan, they would probably know something. I know what you're thinking about. I'll help you talk to them later, Fu Qiu said. Thank you. Yi Qingtang gave it a salute. Fu Qiu waved her hand away and said, there's no need for thanks. I owe your mother too much, and it's something that I should be doing. If you manage to find her one day, please help me thank her. Deep down, Fu Qiu had a feeling that it would not be able to leave this place. Every time it was suggested, the idea would be shot down. Yi Qingtang nodded her head in agreement. Fu Qiu didn't say much else, and just told Yi Qingtang to go back. It told her that their stay would be free from now on, so they didn't need to give it any more spirit stones. Chapter 1880. 10,000 Poison Valley 2. Just as Qingtang was about to return to her room to think about the day's events, she noticed that Bailey Shi and the rest were all standing outside her room waiting for her. Qingtang. They stepped forwards and greeted her. The animosity they had previously was gone after spending time with her, and the way they addressed her had changed as well. Seeing that they seemed to have something they wanted to say to her, she opened her room door to let them in. Once they were inside, Bailey Shi and the rest spoke up. The people who arrived today are no weaklings. Their heavy injuries don't seem to be from the monsters, and I'm afraid there are other powerful men in this mystic realm. Bailey Shi frowned as he said this. Since they were not in the same line of work, he didn't know Long Yao that well. But Bailey Shi and Mu Ferwa could tell that the black-clad men with long E were all powerful. They could only imagine how strong their opponent had been that they had suffered such heavy injuries. We've already been in this mystic realm for a few days. Shouldn't we find the exit as soon as possible and get out of here? Mu Ferwa said. They had been faced with so many grave dangers after entering the Immortal Footsteps mystic realm. Now that it had gotten to this point, they no longer had any will to look for the treasures, and were content with leaving with their lives intact. There would definitely be a treasure in the mystic realm, but they had no mind to think about it in their current state. Yi Qingtang naturally understood their concerns, but was still fixated on the connection between Long Yao's group and her mother. But she couldn't tell this to Bailey Shi and the rest. We're going to search for the exit while it's still dark. What do you think? Mu Ferwa asked. Yi Qingtang nodded. Bailey Shi and the rest could leave first if they found the exit, but Yi Qingtang was in no hurry. They were relieved to see that Yi Qingtang had not objected. Bailey Shi and Mu Ferwa had both entered the Immortal Footsteps mystic realm before. While their current situation was slightly different, they still understood the rules of the Immortal Footsteps mystic realm. That night, Bailey Shi and Mu Ferwa set out to find the exit. Jiang Xiaobai's gaze subconsciously swept over Yi Qingtang, as though he was thinking about something. But when Yi Qingtang looked back at him, he merely had a cynical smile on his face. Long Yao was still beside her brother. Little miss, young Master Long Xiao has sustained severe injuries. He will need time to rest and recover, said Long Yi. Long Yao's forehead was tightly furrowed. Did anyone from the 10,000 Poison Valley follow you when you ran? Long Yao asked the other guards. The guards shook their heads. The young girl's forehead remained furrowed as her eyes swept over the guards. A black mist seemed to be surrounding their wounds. The poison from the 10,000 Poison Valley. Long Yao laughed coldly. The people from the 10,000 Poison Valley are really devious. Your wounds are all infected with the poison from them. No matter where you go, they will be able to follow the black mist to find us. Long Yao said softly as she gritted her teeth. Had they been outside of this mystic realm, she wouldn't be afraid to face. But now that they were here, they were clearly outnumbered. If the people from the 10,000 Poison Valley were to follow them here, it would mean sure death. Chapter 1881, 10,000 Poison Valley 3. Just as Long Yao was agonizing over this, the unconscious Long Xiao let out a low moan. Spinning her head quickly, Long Yao turned to look at her brother. Even though he had regained consciousness, his complexion still looked terrible. Elder brother. Long Yao's face brightened as she saw her brother wake up. Yao! Long Xiao's sharp brows and handsome face looked weak from his deathly pale complexion. Elder brother, you're finally awake. You've scared me to death. It took Long Xiao great effort to open his mouth, but his half-open eyes were still bright. Have the people from the 10,000 Poison Valley caught up with us? Long Xiao asked. Long Yao shook her head. Just as she was about to tell him about the black mist, he smiled slightly and said, What you want to say is, not yet, right? A short nod came from his sister. Pulling himself up, Long Xiao ignored the painful injuries all over his body. His black hair hung by his side. Against his deathly pale face, it made his beautiful features look slightly demonic. I know how the 10,000 Poison Valley works. They won't let us off so easily. With the numbers they had, killing us wasn't impossible. They only let us go so that they could find Aunt Geo. Long Xiao narrowed his eyes. Even though he was weak, the weakness did not show in his eyes, which were clear and bright. Yao, have you found the whereabouts of Aunt Geo yet? Long Xiao's eyes changed as he looked at her with anticipation. Long Yao shook her head. I showed Fuchio the photo, but it refused to say anything. Fuchio's guard is still up against us. The person who followed Aunt Geo into the mystic realm left halfway and delivered her letter to us. Otherwise, there was no way we would have known about what was inside this mystic realm. Fuchio isn't saying anything as it fears that we will harm Aunt Geo. Long Xiao was intelligent and quickly realized the reason behind Fuchio's silence. Bring me to him. Long Xiao got off the bed painstakingly. His hurried actions pained Long Yao. It wouldn't be long before the 10,000 Poison Valley would find them. He needed to find Aunt Jiao as soon as possible. Long Xiao went to find Fu Qiu with Long Yi supporting him. Fu Qiu's heart was a little moved when it saw Long Xiao and the rest, but its expression remained unchanged. Long Xiao didn't beat about the bush. He took a beautifully intricate box out of his space ring and opened it in front of Fu Qiu. Inside the box was a breathtaking jade pendant. The jade pendant was the same as the one hanging on Yi Qingtang's neck. Fu Qiu froze as it saw the jade pendant. Its subtle change in expression didn't escape the notice of Long Xiao. Our clan is the only one with this jade pendant, Long Xiao said as he bit his nail hurriedly. A drop of blood dripped onto the jade pendant. The jade pendant glowed as his blood touched it, and a totem appeared above the pendant. Aunt Jiao entered this mystic realm many years ago with the pendant around her neck. I know you want to protect Aunt Jiao, and am grateful for that. She's extremely important to us, and we've been looking for her all these years. We want to find and protect her too. Long Xiao knew Fu Qiu's concerns and wasn't in a hurry to let it speak. He wanted to allay its suspicions first. Chapter 1882. 10,000 Poison Valley 4. The jade pendant belonged only to their clan, and would show the totem whenever it came into contact with their blood. My jade pendant is different from Aunt Jiao's. Mine shows a dragon totem, but Aunt Jiao's one shows a flame totem when it touches her blood. Fu Qiu's gaze shifted from the jade pendant, but it did not reply to Long Xiao. I know that you have your concerns, but if you know where she is, please warn her. She's in a very dangerous situation right now, and needs to take care of herself. Long Xiao turned to leave with Long Yi and the rest after saying this, as though he had no intention of hearing Fu Qiu's reply. Were they going to just leave like this? Long Yao felt a little apprehensive about leaving and murmured, Elder brother, we're leaving now? It hasn't even said anything. A smile was on Long Xiao's face as he replied, Fu Qiu is set on protecting Aunt Jiao, which is why he has his own concerns. If Aunt Jiao is still here, Fu Qiu will definitely confirm what we said with her, and once she finds out that we are here, she will naturally seek us out. Long Yao seemed to only understand part of this, but did not say anything else. Meanwhile, Fu Qiu's expression shifted when it saw Long Xiao and the others leave. After making sure that they had left, Fu Qiu walked straight to Yi Qingtang's room and told her all about the jade pendant Long Xiao had shown it. Yi Qingtang was surprised after hearing Fu Qiu's words. She had never noticed what happened to the pendant whenever it touched blood before. Wanting to try it out, Yi Qingtang took her jade pendant out, bit the tip of her finger, and let her blood drip on it. As the fresh blood dripped onto the jade pendant, it lit up and a flame totem appeared on it. Yi Qingtang froze as she saw it. It looked so familiar. Fu Qiu, you said that man had a dragon totem? Yi Qingtang asked. Fu Qiu nodded. He was afraid that Yi Qingtang would not know what it looked like, and had drawn a picture for her. When she saw the image of the dragon totem, Yi Qingtang's expression changed. Looking at the dragon totem, and the flame totem reminded her of an influential clan in the second domain. The Dragon Emperor clan, Yi Qingtang mumbled to herself. The Dragon Emperor clan was influential in the second domain. Yi Qingtang had only heard of its name before, but had never thought that her mother was related to the Dragon Emperor clan. Was her mother someone from that clan? If it were to be true, it was a shocking revelation. No wonder Long Yao had talked about the 10,000 Poison Valley so casually. As someone from the Dragon Emperor clan, of course, she wasn't scared of the 10,000 Poison Valley. Yi Qingtang had no idea about the totem that appeared on the pendant while Long Xiao had known about it. He had even known about the totem that appeared on Yi Qingtang's pendant. If everything was as she was thinking, her mother was likely someone from the Dragon Emperor clan. But, with such power, what was it that made her mother need to escape the second domain? Yi Qingtang's head was filled with confusion. Long Xiao and the rest were probably the only ones who could explain this. That little rascal is related to you. Little White Tiger was shocked. Chapter 1883. 10,000 Poison Valley 5. Long Yao and Long Xiao had called her mother Aunt Jiu, which meant that they were probably related by blood. But Yi Qingtang was in no hurry to reveal herself to Long Yao and the rest. After all, even though they were in the same clan, she had not completely figured out the circumstances behind her mother's escape from the second domain yet. Yi Qingtang had seen people of the same clan kill each other before, so it was better to be careful. Why had her mother not returned if the Dragon Emperor clan was truly safe? There was no way she was going to expose herself to danger before figuring out as much as she could. Her mind was still preoccupied with all these thoughts when a sudden loud noise shook the ground above them. What happened? It's the middle of the night. Are the monsters above not done? Little White Tiger was a little surprised. Yi Qingtang looked at Fuqiu, who looked confused as well. It walked up the Crystal Palace with Yi Qingtang, and a white tiger following behind it. There was a group of threatening men standing outside the Crystal Palace, smashing at the entrance repeatedly. A man and a woman led the crowd. The woman was tall and slender, her long dress outlining her figure slightly. But her face was so cold no one would even dare approach her. Jiangran, you're sure that Long Xiao and the rest are here? The woman spoke slowly as she lifted her chin to look at the 15-year-old boy standing beside her. The young man was as pale as white jade, and was very good-looking. He had a pair of shapely eyes which made him look as though he was constantly smiling, making people want to get close to him. In response, he lifted his hands, showing a palm-sized poisonous spider on top. He looked at the reaction of the spider and nodded. Senior sister, Long Xiao and the rest have our poison on them. There's no way my spider would be mistaken about their whereabouts. They must be inside the Crystal Palace, and have probably been hiding here for a day or two as my spider can feel that the black mist inside is thick. Humph! The woman scoffed coldly as she narrowed her eyes and stared at the entrance of the Crystal Palace with her arms crossed. Since we're already here, I want you to blast this Crystal Palace open. Let's see how long they think they can hide for. Under the command of the woman, the black-clad men behind her rushed towards the Crystal Palace entrance and started smashing at it. Shards of crystal fell from the entrance with every attack. Looking at the malicious people in front of them, Yi Qingtang and Fuqiu could not help but think about the impending attack on Long Xiao and the others. The people outside were likely the ones who had injured Long Xiao and his guards so badly. The 10,000 Poison Valley. As the commotion outside grew louder and louder, Bailey Shi and the others who had been sleeping in their rooms all walked out to take a look. They froze when they saw the people outside smashing at the Crystal Palace. Long Yao and Long Xiao walked over, and their faces were dark when they saw the people from the 10,000 Poison Valley outside. They sure were fast, Long Xiao said with narrowed eyes. His gaze fell on the poisonous spider on the young man's palms. Lu Jiangran, you're not bad after all. Long Xiao had estimated that the 10,000 Poison Valley would need a few days before finding them, and had not expected them to be here so fast. Elder brother, we have to fight with all our might. Long Yao seethed with anger. It was these people who had injured her brother. We can't. Long Xiao only shook his head. Chapter 1884. A Lunatic's Plan, 1. Most of them had sustained serious injuries. If Lu Jiangran was to continue fighting them, they would lose without a doubt. Revenge was a certainty, however, they mustn't act rashly. Even if we don't go out, the Crystal Palace wouldn't be able to sustain us for much longer. They won't let us go that easily, Long Yao said. Let me think. Long Xiao's brows furrowed. Long Xiao had a plan in mind, but it wasn't easy to carry out at that moment. Sister Qing, I'm sleepy. Let's go back downstairs. Amid the chaotic scene in front of them, Jiang Xiaobai tugged on Yi Qingtang's sleeve while looking at them. Jiang Xiaobai had just awoken, and Yi Qingtang looked at him speechlessly. Couldn't he find a better excuse? If this were to happen earlier, Yi Qingtang probably wouldn't bother with Long Xiao and the others. However, now that she had learned that they were from the same clan as her mother, they had sustained heavy injuries, and if they were to continue fighting, they would most likely die. Long Xiao heard Jiang Xiaobai's voice, lifting his head to look over. It was only then that he realized there were other people in the Crystal Palace. They are. They should be from the first domain, Long Yao surmised. Long Xiao scanned their faces with an inconspicuous gaze. When his eyes landed on Yi Qingtang, he had a visible reaction when he saw her disguised appearance. How could a young lady with such a great figure have such an ugly face? Please hold on. Long Xiao didn't care too much about Yi Qingtang's face. He took a step forward, calling them as they prepared to leave. Apologies, we don't intend to interfere in your matters. Also, you're from the second domain, right? We're from the first domain. You're already formidable, and yet you can't handle the people outside, so we definitely can't do anything for you. If you want us to help, I can only say sorry. Jiang Xiaobai said all of that without waiting for Yi Qingtang to say anything. Yi Qingtang. Sister Qing, let's go back now. Jiang Xiaobai wanted to drag Yi Qingtang away. Long Xiao hadn't anticipated Jiang Xiaobai to have such a sharp tongue despite his appearance. He was stunned and instantly replied, "Little brother, you must have misunderstood me. We're not that close. It's our first time meeting each other. Why are you calling me little brother?" Jiang Xiaobai wasn't reserved at all. How much poison did this fellow take to be this mean? The blunt response made Long Xiao feel incredibly awkward. But with their current situation, Long Xiao could only put it aside and said, Long Xiao. I know that this is sudden, but we're facing a crisis now, and I would like this lady to pass off as my aunt to tide us over." Once Long Xiao said that, not only was Yi Qingtang stunned, even Long Yao's eyes widened in shock. What was going on? Was her brother crazy? Long Yao scanned Yi Qingtang from head to toe with widened eyes. Though she had a great figure, her face, which part of it even resembled her beautiful aunt. Brother, are you crazy? As for Yi Qingtang, she also felt that Long Xiao had probably hurt his head during the battle. What kind of ludicrous plan was going through his mind? Chapter 1885. A lunatic's plan too. Stop joking around. Those people outside are here for you, and we don't want any part of it. If you want someone to impersonate your aunt, use her. She's one of you anyway. Jiang Xiaobai's face darkened at Long Xiao's plan, and he raised his hand to point at Long Yao. Yao won't do. Not only is her figure different from my aunt, but the people from the 10,000 Poison Valley have also seen her before and know what her aura feels like. They have never seen this young lady before, and her figure looks a lot like my aunt's. If you are willing to help, Long Yao said. She's not. Don't even think about it. Jiang Xiaobai refused to listen to Long Xiao's plan at all, and dragged Yi Qingtang away. But Long Xiao continued. The people outside may be here for me, but you really don't understand them. Even though you're not part of this, they will never let you go now that you've seen them chasing after us. What? On the side, Mu Firuo's face was filled with shock. The 10,000 Poison Valley have been at odds with my family clan for a long time, even if they've never shown it. If they manage to assassinate us today, and the news of this gets out, our family clan will declare a battle to the death with them, which is why they will never let this information leak. Long Xiao sighed. It was then that Yi Qingtang finally understood. From the moment Long Xiao had stepped into the Crystal Palace, they had already been drawn into this matter. They could either pray that the 10,000 Poison Valley wasn't going to make it into the Crystal Palace, or pray that their supreme god wouldn't kill them off. Whatever happened to Long Xiao's group would also affect them. Jiang Xiaobai's face was already as dark as it could be. He narrowed his eyes at Long Xiao and said, You tricked us. Long Yi smiled wryly and shook his head. How could we have done that? We had no idea that there would be other people in the Crystal Palace. But at this point, there is nothing we can do about the situation. So would you please lend us your strength for now to get through this? You would have my eternal gratitude. You make it sound so easy. But elder sister Qing has never even seen your aunt. How is she going to impersonate her? Furthermore, the people outside aren't stupid. Would they really retreat just because of your aunt? Jiang Xiaobai asked coldly. Long Xiao replied, It's fine if she doesn't know what to do. I will instruct her. And I don't expect them to retreat. I just want to buy some time. Come morning, something will be there to deal with the 10,000 Poison Valley. In fact, Long Xiao already had a plan in mind, just no one who could play the part. The people he had brought with him were all poisoned, and the 10,000 Poison Valley were very familiar with Long Yi and Long Yao, so none of them could impersonate their aunt. Furthermore, the 10,000 Poison Valley was already aware of their numbers, and the missing person playing their aunt would reveal their plan. Yi Qingtang was slightly surprised after hearing Long Xiao's plan. She knew more or less what Long Xiao was thinking. Once morning fell, the fat catfishes in the gambling town would all become demonized. The tens of thousands of fat catfishes in their bestial states would definitely be too much for the 10,000 Poison Valley to handle. Yi Qingtang's gaze swept over Long Xiao. The fact that he was able to use the mystic realm against his enemies showed how intelligent he truly was. Chapter 1886, A Lunatic's Plan 3. To cause a delay, we just need to remain in this crystal palace, Mu Ferhua suggested. To be honest, he didn't want Yi Qingtang to take such a huge risk. They were already being burdened by Long Xiao and the rest. There was no need for Yi Qingtang to be a scapegoat. Long Xiao didn't speak, but just looked toward Fuqiu. Fuqiu was looking somewhat grim. The biggest benefit to Fuqiu's crystal palace was its ability to negate the effect daylight had on it. Besides, it also prevented other fat catfish from noticing and attacking it. Although it did have its uses, this type of special crystal did not offer complete defense against all types of invaders. There had been countless attempts by people out in the 10,000 Poison Valley to destroy this crystal palace. A large portion of the palace had already been damaged. It would not be long before this crystal palace would be utterly destroyed. Likewise, Mu Ferhua and the others did not wish to get mixed up in this matter. They were already at a disadvantage in terms of numbers and strength. Even if we agreed to work with you, you are unable to guarantee elder sister Qing's safety. Jiang Xiaobai narrowed his eyes. It was clear that Yi Qingtang's safety was of utmost importance to him. Yes, it's true that I can't guarantee that. Long Xiao gave a bitter smile. If given a choice, he wouldn't want to implicate innocent parties into this matter either. But he had no other option. Yi Qingtang looked at the crowd standing before her. If her mother was truly one of the Dragon Emperor clan, she was naturally happy to help Long Xiao and the rest. Also, she might be able to glean more details about her mother from Long Xiao. However, I will leave immediately if things look bad, said Yi Qingtang. The eyes of Jiang Xiaobai and the others widened at Yi Qingtang's words. In return, Long Xiao responded, I promise that I will do my best to ensure your safety. You can leave any time if things become too dangerous. We will try to buy time for you. Yi Qingtang nodded slightly. Tell me about your aunt just in case. Long Xiao glanced around and indicated for the rest of the crowd to leave. Only Fuqiu, Long Yao, Long Yi and Jiang Xiaobai stayed behind with Yi Qingtang. Elder sister Qing, we don't need to take this risk, Jiang Xiaobai whispered. Yi Qingtang shook her head. Mu Ferhua and the others have yet to find the Mystic Realm's exit point. If this crystal palace is damaged, we'll have to remain in this Mystic Realm, and in the end, we will be exposed to the dangers here. A slight frown appeared on Jiang Xiaobai's face. He looked as if he wanted to say something, but remained silent in the end. May I know how to address you? Long Xiao asked Yi Qingtang. My surname is Yi, Yi Qingtang replied. Ms. Yi, I have a drawing of my Aunt Jiu here. As we are pressed for time, could Ms. Yi please change her appearance first before we continue? Long Xiao handed a portrait over to Yi Qingtang. Conflicting emotions rose in Yi Qingtang's heart as she gazed at the woman in the drawing. She had come to seek her mother, but had never expected to have to pass herself off as her own mother. Without another word, Yi Qingtang turned and went back to her room. Long Yao was not at all happy with Long Xiao's plan. She didn't think that the plain-looking Yi Qingtang could adequately pass herself off as their Aunt Jiu. Elder brother, you are taking too big of a risk this time. Furrowing her brows, Long Yao did not hide her displeasure. Chapter 1887, A Lunatic's Plan 4. We have no choice now. In the letter that Aunt Jiu left for us, she mentioned this secret pathway in the Crystal Palace. But it can only be activated in the daytime. We have to stop those people from the 10,000 Poison Valley from damaging the Crystal Palace, if we wish to leave. The moment the Crystal Palace is destroyed, we will be in dire straits. Long Xiao let out a gentle sigh. Long Yao pursed her lips. I just don't think that she can pass off as Aunt Geo. Just as Long Xiao was just about to reply, a slender figure suddenly glided into view. Long Xiao and the rest instinctively turned toward that figure, and they were instantly stunned by what they saw. It was as though that gorgeous young lady had stepped right out of the portrait. No one could discern the slightest difference in her appearance. Long Yao had not been born when Aunt Geo left home. As a result, she had never seen Aunt Geo's in person before. She only knew Aunt Geo's face from the portrait. But at this point Long Yao suddenly felt that the person standing right before her was her Aunt Geo. Even Long Xiao, who had met Aunt Geo in person before, was equally dumbstruck. That pale, handsome face seemed to crack. His eyes were fixed upon that lovely young lady. It was like that time when he first met her, so many years before, when he was still a youth, while she was so beautiful and regal. Long Xiao. The young lattice lips curled up gently as she called his name softly. Her smile was like 1,000 flowers blooming. Yi Qingtang was very amused by the sight of the dumbstruck crowd. To be honest, she did look fairly similar to her mother. But no one could tell because of her disguise. Now that Long Xiao wanted her to change her appearance to look like her mother. Yi Qingtang's ability to change her appearance had always been top-notch. But since she already looked similar to her mother, Yi Qingtang just had to tweak her appearance a little to achieve a complete disguise. Is this acceptable? Yi Qingtang asked. Yi Qingtang's voice was clearly different from her mother's, and this finally snapped Long Xiao out of his trance. But he still continued to look at Yi Qingtang with wonder. Originally, he had thought that Yi Qingtang would only be able to attain a general likeness. But her startling transformation was able to fool even him. It was as if the woman standing before him was really his Aunt Geo. The only difference was that Yi Qingtang's eyes didn't possess that familiar hint of merriment. You look exactly the same, Long Xiao replied in all honesty. Even the antagonistic Long Yao could not say otherwise. She just continued staring at Yi Qingtang with wide, dazed eyes. Yi Qingtang smiled. There was no way she could fail to look like her mother. She had always looked like her mother. Just a slight alteration to her appearance was adequate. In fact, it would be rather upsetting if she didn't manage to look exactly like her mother. Long Xiao stole a few more glimpses at Yi Qingtang before suppressing his inner turmoil and saying, Ms. Yi, my aunt's name is Diju Yuan. Remember that. Diju Yuan, Yi Qingtang repeated slowly. Isn't she your aunt? Why is her surname different? Long Xiao replied, This is one of the rules of my clan. Aunt Geo, she was born different, and so her surname is different. Even though Long Xiao was speaking rather nonchalantly about this, Yi Qingtang could feel that this was a crucial point. Same clan, different surname. One was Long, the other was Di. In the entire second domain, only the Dragon Emperor clan would have such a rule. Chapter 1888. Diju Yuan 1. Inside the Crystal Palace, Long Xiao was giving Yi Qingtang a crash course. Outside the Crystal Palace, it was an entirely different scene. Under the continuous rampage by the people of the 10,000 Poison Valley, half the outer walls of the Crystal Palace were already damaged. Lu Rusu was standing outside the Crystal Palace, coldly surveying the half-crumbled walls. A slight frown was on her face. How much longer do you need? Senior sister, this crystal is very hard. We will need a bit more time to destroy it. One of the black-clad men spoke up nervously. He broke out in cold sweat under Lu Rusu's icy stare. Lu Rusu narrowed her eyes and lifted her chin imperiously. She glared coldly at the black-clad man. A bunch of useless trash. You can't even manage such a small task? You are all a disgrace to the 10,000 Poison Valley. As she spoke, Lu Rusu raised her hand and drew it mildly across the black-clad man's neck. In an instant, the man's face turned pallid as a purple mark suddenly appeared on his neck. He quickly tried to beg for mercy, but found that he was unable to speak. That purple mark was already rapidly spreading outward to the rest of his body. Before he could even try to utter a cry of despair, The man collapsed stiffly on the ground. His skin had turned a mottled purple before turning black. His bruised flesh then started to rot. In the blink of an eye, that person became a maggot-infested corpse before turning into a pile of blackened bones. The strong smell of rot permeated the air. A chill ran down the spines of the other 10,000 Poison Valley men as they witnessed the sight. All the while, Lu Rusu's face remained impassive. She behaved as if she had just squashed an ant, and not one of her own men. I will give you another half an hour. You will all end up like him if the Crystal Palace is not destroyed by then, Lu Rusu stated coldly. The other black-clad men broke out in cold sweat, as their hearts leaped to their throats. They knew very well that Lu Rusu meant what she said. As Lu Jiangran observed the malevolent-looking Lu Rusu, he chuckled and shook his head lightly. Don't be angry, senior sister. Our men already have the Crystal Palace surrounded. It is just a matter of time before we capture Long Xiao and the rest. People who are useless to me don't deserve to continue living. Junior brother, you have been in the 10,000 Poison Valley for so long. Don't tell me you don't understand this simple concept. Lu Jiangran remained nonchalant in the face of Lu Rusu's malevolence. He merely glanced at the crumbling Crystal Palace. Our main goal is to find Di Juyuan. Long Xiao and the rest are just a means to our end. But Di Juyuan has been missing for so many years. Although we know she was last seen entering the mystic realm, no one can be sure if she is still inside, right? Lu Rusu smirked. If she is, we will definitely be able to find her. Lu Jiangran replied, Of course. I have never met Di Juyuan, but I've heard that she is very formidable. Many years ago, she already possessed extraordinary talent despite her young age. Most of the elders of the Dragon Emperor clan were not even her match. Now that she has remained in the mystic realm for so many years, her powers must have grown exponentially. To find Di Juyuan, senior sister only needs to hold the lives of Long Xiao and the others in our hands. Chapter 1889, Di Juyuan 2. Of course I am well aware of that. Why else do you think I am wasting my time here? Lu Rusu snapped. Seemingly used to her attitude, Lu Jiangran only smiled. Senior sister is indeed smart and astute. You think of everything. Although Lu Rusu wanted to reply, the doors to the Crystal Palace suddenly opened. Lu Rusu and the others immediately turned to look. Long Xiao, you finally dare to show your face? Lu Rusu raised her brows slightly as she gazed at Long Xiao, who had just emerged with a group of people. A smile was on Long Xiao's face. Why would I not dare to? Useless trash. Surrender now and I might let you suffer a little less pain, Lu Rusu demanded. Standing beside Long Xiao, Long Yao's expression immediately darkened at Lu Rusu's arrogance. She wanted to make a move, but was discreetly held back by Long Xiao. Surrender? You must be dreaming. Long Xiao smiled. Lu Rusu narrowed her eyes. She raised her hand, prepared to strike Long Xiao. But just as Lu Rusu lifted her hand, an amused voice suddenly echoed from within the Crystal Palace. How did Lu Ruofeng end up producing such ill-mannered disciples like you? A slender figure sashayed out of the front entrance. Lu Rusu immediately halted upon hearing the name Lu Ruofeng. Lu Ruofeng was the master of both Lu Rusu and Lu Jiangran. He was also the current Poison Emperor of the 10,000 Poison Valley. Who are you? How dare you address my master by his name? Lu Rusu stated coldly. The slender figure continued to float out of the Crystal Palace. It was a breathtakingly gorgeous young lady. Lu Rusu was completely thunderstruck when she finally had a clear look. Staring in a daze at the lovely young woman emerging from the Crystal Palace, Lu Rusu looked as if she couldn't believe her own eyes. Di Juyuan had already vanished from the second domain before Lu Rusu joined the 10,000 Poison Valley. As a result, everything she knew about Di Juyuan was hearsay from her master Lu Ruofeng. Lu Rusu had also seen the portrait of Di Juyuan hanging in her master's study. Di Juyuan? As cold and imperious as Lu Rusu was, even she couldn't help being stunned by the sight of Di Juyuan. With Di Juyuan's face, Yi Qingtang gazed calmly at the 10,000 Poison Valley people. Luckily she had previously pretended to be the Holy Lord of Shadows, and was very well versed in assuming the mannerisms of a domineering figure. As she glanced past Long Xiao and the others, her lips curved up gently in an elegant smile. Senior sister, that is, Di Juyuan? Since Lu Jiangran was a bit younger, he knew even less about Di Juyuan. Lu Rusu's face turned grim. They had come intending to find Di Juyuan, but she had planned to capture Long Xiao and the rest as hostages first, before slowly sussing out Di Juyuan's whereabouts. In this way, they could lay a trap for Di Juyuan to fall in on her own. But now, it was hard to believe that Long Xiao and his people had already found the missing Di Juyuan. Could she be a fake? Di Juyuan has been missing for so long. How did Long Xiao and his people manage to find her so easily? Moreover, doesn't senior sister find that Di Juyuan's sudden appearance at this crucial point is too much of a coincidence? Lu Jiangran piped up. Di Juyuan was very formidable. Long before she went missing, she was already a high-level practitioner who dominated over her peers. They were no match for her at all. A cold glint flashed past Lu Rusu's eyes. With a chilly smile on her face, Lu Rusu stepped forward and cupped her fists in a respectful gesture. Greetings, Senior Di. I am your junior Lu Rusu. I have heard many great things about you, and it is my honor to finally meet you today. I have come on behalf of my master to find you. Real or fake, they would know soon enough. Chapter 1890. Di Juyuan 3. The veiled malevolence in Lu Rusu's eyes was not hard to notice. Yi Qingtang had seen much of such hidden spite in the Temple of Shadows. Yi Qingtang remained calm. She cast a sweeping glance at Long Xiao and the rest before saying, Lu Ruofeng asked you all to seek me out in this manner? The 10,000 Poison Valley has become too bold. How dare you attack the people of my Dragon Emperor clan? A powerful aura radiated from Yi Qingtang as she spoke those words. The overwhelming aura momentarily startled Lu Rusu and the entourage around her. That intense, powerful aura was an immediate signal of how this woman was so much more formidable than them. A drop of cold sweat dripped down Lu Rusu's forehead. Yi Qingtang heaved a secret sigh of relief on seeing Lu Rusu and her men's reactions. Before coming out, Long Xiao had specially given her a special elixir cultivated by the Dragon Emperor clan. This elixir could imitate the aura of a powerful practitioner. While it could be used for intimidation purposes, her ruse would be exposed if they were to really engage in a fight. Long Xiao also heaved a secret sigh of relief on seeing how well Yi Qingtang was acting. This young lady from the first domain was more steady than he had expected. Lu Rusu and her men had initially suspected Yi Qingtang's identity, but after experiencing her powerful aura, they were all feeling very fretful. It must be said that no one in Long Xiao's gang could exude such a powerful aura. Senior, please don't be angry. We were following orders and had no choice. Master has been single-mindedly trying to find you for so many years. Every action we committed was only because we cared. Lu Jiangran braced himself against the powerful aura as he spoke up. What a joke. Lu Ruofeng and I have nothing more to do with each other. If he really wanted to see me, he should have come himself. Otherwise, Yi Qingtang secretly unleashed an extra modicum of the elixir inside her, exuding an even more oppressive aura. During the debrief, Long Xiao hadn't elaborated on what had happened between Di Juyuan and Lu Ruofeng. He had only given some brief points about it to Yi Qingtang. Lu Jiangran didn't speak, but just exchanged looks with Lu Rusu. The aura of this Di Juyuan was indeed powerful, but something just didn't feel quite right. They had harmed the people of the Dragon Emperor clan, and with Di Juyuan's powers, there was no need for her to waste words with them. She could have just killed them all in the blink of an eye, but this Di Juyuan didn't seem to have any intention of attacking them. Why? Their earlier suspicions surfaced once again. Senior, Lu Jiangran wanted to probe again, but a cold glint suddenly flashed across Yi Qingtang's eyes as she lifted her palm. A black, palm-sized metal globe floated upon her palm. The faces of Lu Jiangran and the rest all turned ashen at the sight of the black globe, the absolute 10,000 poison. As Lu Ruofeng's disciples, they naturally knew what that black ball in Yi Qingtang's hand was. That year, before Lu Ruofeng and Di Juyuan had parted ways, Lu Ruofeng had managed to cultivate the ultimate poison of the second domain. That poison was colorless, tasteless, and odorless. It could kill without detection. Once poisoned, even Lu Ruofeng would not be able to neutralize the effects. Lu Ruofeng had spent 10 years and was able to cultivate just 1 unit of that poison, and he had given it to DG Yuan. After their parting, Lu Ruofeng spent another decade cultivating another unit. That unit was now stored in the Grand Hall of the 10,000 Poison Valley. Chapter 1891. DG Yuan 4. For this poison, there were only those 2 units in the entire world. Apart from Lu Ruofeng, DG Yuan was the only person who had won. At the sight of that absolute 10,000 poison, the suspicion and doubt shrouding the minds of Lu Jiangran and her people instantly reduced by half. Your master gave this to me years ago. On account of my past friendship with him, I don't want to cause you all any harm. But if you still refuse to back off, well, I am rather curious to see if this poison is as formidable as Lu Ruofeng claimed. With that, Yi Qingtang made as if she was going to activate that black globe. Senior, please don't be angry. Lu Jiangran was completely cowed, and he shrunk back unconsciously. The poison within would disperse from the moment the deadly black ball was activated. Once infected, even a Paragon-level practitioner would die a terrible death. While they were still in the 10,000 Poison Valley, Lu Jiangran and his people had been warned over and over again not to come into contact with that poison. They knew just how powerful it was. Scram! Yi Qingtang ordered, her expression cold and foreboding. Having no other choice, Lu Jiangran and Lu Rusu could only retreat with their men. They were not a match for DG Yuan, but at least they now knew that DG Yuan was still inside the mystic realm. With that in mind, they retreated and prepared to locate the exit out from the mystic realm. It was important that they return to the 10,000 Poison Valley to report on DG Yuan's whereabouts. Finally, Yi Qingtang heaved a secret sigh of relief as she watched the people from the 10,000 Poison Valley depart. Long Xiao and the rest also finally relaxed somewhat. Thank you, Ms. Yi, for helping us. Long Xiao spoke up gratefully. In all honesty, he had felt that Yi Qingtang's powers were lacking, and never expected her to put up such a flawless and steady performance in front of Lu Rusu and her men. Long Xiao had intended for Yi Qingtang to just stall for time until it was daylight when those monsters could deal with Lu Rusu and her people. He never expected Yi Qingtang to act so well that Lu Rusu and her men were scared off. If not for the fact that he already knew she was a fake, Long Xiao himself would have believed that she was really DG Yuan, given her authentic performance. Even Long Yao was now looking at Yi Qingtang with a conflicted expression. No need to thank me. I just hope that you won't drag me into your affairs again. Here, let me return this to you. Yi Qingtang tossed the absolute 10,000 poison over to Long Xiao. She had initially found it rather puzzling. Why was Long Xiao so confident that she could impersonate DG Yuan? So it was because they had the elixir and this poison. Long Xiao was shocked by Yi Qingtang's nonchalant handling of the absolute 10,000 poison. He hurriedly reached out to catch it. Ms. Yi, please don't throw this thing around. We will all die here if you accidentally activate it. Long Xiao also gave a bitter smile as he spoke. This absolute 10,000 poison was left behind by Aunt Jiu right before she departed. Long Xiao had kept it on him all this time, never expecting that he would have a use for it today. Everyone finally heaved a great sigh of relief after settling those people from the 10,000 Poison Valley. But they knew very well that this was just a temporary respite. Those people were just heading back to deliver news of Di Juyuan's reappearance. There was no doubt that the main army of the 10,000 Poison Valley would be back. I say, Lu Ruofeng is so desperate to find your Aunt Jiu. Is it for love or revenge? Yi Qingtang asked with feigned ignorance. Long Xiao was momentarily taken aback, but then he smiled again. We are not sure exactly what happened in our elder's generation, but Aunt Jiu's rejection of Lu Ruofeng was indeed a major blow to him. Chapter 1892. Breakthrough 1. At that time, Lu Ruofeng was still not the Poison Emperor. Nevertheless, he had already displayed exceptional talent and it was universally known that he would become the next Poison Emperor. As a result, everyone treated him with the utmost respect. No one expected him to be humiliated by the very woman whom he had taken a fancy to. He had nearly become the laughingstock of the entire second domain. Yi Qingtang suppressed a smirk. She knew very well that Lu Ruofeng must be seeking out Di Juyuan for something much more complicated than that. However, it looked like Long Xiao was unwilling to divulge any further. If she wished to learn more about her mother, it was likely she would have to go to the second domain to investigate. Although the danger had passed, the security they had now would not hold for long. Yi Qingtang, Long Xiao, and the rest had to find the exit from the mystic realm while it was still dark. Not only that, Long Xiao and his men were still injured. Although they had yet to find traces of Di Juyuan, they did not dare to linger on. Yi Qingtang and her companions were even more anxious to leave the mystic realm, in case they were once again dragged into this messy affair. At this point, Yi Qingtang was already very satisfied knowing her mother's name and family clan. It was more information than she had hoped to find. Before leaving, Yi Qingtang told Fu Qiu to stay hidden away for the time being. This was in case the 10,000 Poison Valley folks came back and failed to find them. Fu Qiu would be unwittingly implicated. Fu Qiu understood. It handed over a silk box to Yi Qingtang, explaining that this was something her mother had previously left in its care. It asked Yi Qingtang to open it only after leaving the mystic realm. Before this, Bailey Shi and the rest had already been seeking out the exit and found some clues. As a result, they managed to locate the exit rather easily before daylight. Yi Qingtang heaved a sigh of relief upon seeing the exit from the mystic realm. She was truly exhausted after this long tribulation. Giving the mystic realm one last glance, Yi Qingtang and the others finally fled from the place. The world spun around them before Yi Qingtang, and her group returned once again to the island. Looking at everyone's wretched states, they didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Just as Yi Qingtang was about to stretch out, an intense power suddenly surged within her. What's wrong? Jiang Xiaobai was startled by the sight of the intensifying light emanating from Yi Qingtang's body. Bailey Shi and Mu Ferhua were likewise astounded. Ms. Yi, it looks like you are going to have a breakthrough? Bailey Shi gave a slight frown. The previous time when they entered the Immortal Footsteps mystic realm, they hadn't felt anything much while they were inside. But one of their companions had gained a fortuitous experience. That person didn't have any reaction at the beginning, but her powers suddenly surged after leaving the mystic realm. The powers of the Immortal Footsteps mystic realm would not be revealed while we are inside. Perhaps Ms. Yi had a lucky encounter, but didn't notice it at that time. Brother Jiang, quickly take her back to rest. She looks like she is going to have a breakthrough any time now, Mu Ferhua hurriedly advised. Jiang Xiaobai didn't dare to hesitate. He immediately lifted the dazed Yi Qingtang into his arms and carried both her and Little White Tiger back to their accommodations on the island. What was going? Yi Qingtang could only feel a burning intensity inside her body, which was now radiating waves of orange light. Her temperature was also rising steadily. Despite the barrier of their clothing, Jiang Xiaobai was already flushed from the heat exuded by Yi Qingtang's high temperature. Yi Qingtang's state of mind was becoming increasingly hazy. She felt like she was submerged in a sea of darkness with orange dots of light continuously flashing at her from all angles. The glowing lights looked like those spirit stones inside the Immortal Footsteps mystic realm. Chapter 1893. Breakthrough, 2. Those tiny dots of light increased exponentially until it looked like a star-strewn night sky. Yi Qingtang stood in the center, wanting to move, but found herself unable to. All she could do was to stare on dumbly as those dots of light shot toward her. In the blink of an eye, those lights surged into her body, until she felt like she was about to burst open. Beads of cold sweat broke out all over her, as well as a bone-crushing pain. The pain was excruciating, as if she was torn apart, then smashed into pieces at the same time. Was she going to die like this? But just as she was enduring the torment, a faint blue light suddenly appeared in the darkness. That blue light was like a stream of pure spring water. It enveloped Yi Qingtang and controlled her absorption of those orange lights, so that it was more bearable. How could this be? Yi Qingtang was very confused. She could vaguely feel that those orange lights were similar to the power of those spirit stones she had previously absorbed. But during that time in the mystic realm, she had only felt her strength increase. There were no other effects. How did this power, which originated from those fat catfish, suddenly become so intense once she left the mystic realm? Mu Feruo and the rest didn't know that the power held by those spirit stones could be used for cultivation. As a result, they didn't forewarn Yi Qingtang that powers gleaned from the immortal footsteps mystic realm were in a suppressed form. The true magnitude of the powers would be activated the moment one left the mystic realm. Yi Qingtang had absorbed several thousand spirit stones while in the immortal footsteps mystic realm. The power held by those stones was astronomical. It was not something that Yi Qingtang could completely absorb and convert. If not for the deity ocean inside Yi Qingtang, which detected the abnormal activity and was trying to help her convert the energy, Yi Qingtang's body would probably have already exploded from the tremendous force generated within her. After being demonized, the powers of the fat catfish in the immortal footsteps mystic realm were at least at the paragon level. And those spirit stones embodied the powers of those catfish. As Yi Qingtang had absorbed the powers of countless fat catfish, it was a wonder she didn't burst to death. Even with the deity ocean's help, Yi Qingtang still felt like dying from the burgeoning power. She felt like every single cell in her body was being torn apart and reformed over and over again. The pain completely overwhelmed her. Yi Qingtang was tormented for a long time within the darkness. Her consciousness gradually submerged itself into the deity ocean. Meanwhile on the outside, Jiang Xiaobai gazed anxiously at Yi Qingtang, who was lying in bed and glowing with an orange light. The light seemed to radiate from within Yi Qingtang. Pulsating in waves, it was like she was harboring a mini sun inside her body. For several consecutive days, Yi Qingtang showed no signs of waking up. Instead, the orange glow seemed to grow even more intense. Bailey Shi and Mu Feruo came to visit many times, but didn't see any signs of Yi Qingtang awakening. It had been several days since they came out of the immortal footsteps mystic realm, and it was time for them to return to their clan. They had no choice but to bid farewell to Jiang Xiaobai and Yi Qingtang, and leave the island first. All the while, Jiang Xiaobai sat by Yi Qingtang's beside, his face pale and grim. A powerful light suddenly burst out from Yi Qingtang's body, such that Jiang Xiaobai was nearly knocked onto the ground. He felt like a huge rock was pinning him to the floor. He quickly activated his own energy to shield against that powerful light. Even then Yi Qingtang still showed no signs of awakening, but her aura suddenly increased exponentially. She had just experienced a breakthrough. Jiang Xiaobai widened his eyes. If not for the fact that he was witnessing it with his very own eyes, he would not have believed that Yi Qingtang could have had a breakthrough while unconscious. Chapter 1894. Breakthrough 3. What surprised Jiang Xiaobai even more was the aura surrounding Yi Qingtang hadn't dissipated even after her first breakthrough. She seemed to have another breakthrough coming. Yi Qingtang was unconscious for quite some time, and when she finally woke up, she opened her eyes to see little white tiger and Jiang Xiaobai, both asleep beside her. The youth's face was pale, and though he was asleep, he seemed to be troubled by something, having furrowed brows even during his rest. When Yi Qingtang wanted to sit up, she felt as though her bones had been broken and healed. She felt sore all over. Even her clothes were soaking wet, as though she had just come out of a pool of water. What happened? It took her some effort to sit up. Though she was sore all over, and the pain was quite unbearable, she felt strangely rejuvenated. Air! Awakened by her movement, Jiang Xiaobai slowly opened his eyes. When he saw that Yi Qingtang could sit up, there was a glint of excitement in his eyes as he stood up in one swift movement. Sister Qing, you're finally awake. Yi Qingtang nodded. How long was I asleep? Almost 2 weeks, Jiang Xiaobai replied. Fuck. Was she a pig? Yi Qingtang was dumbstruck. Her last memories stopped when they left the immortal footsteps mystic realm with Bailey Shi. She seemed to have no existing memories of anything after that. All she could remember was the gleaming spots as well as the warm blue lights that surrounded her. Sister Qing, I'll get you something to eat. When Jiang Xiaobai saw that Yi Qingtang was finally awake, he was delighted. Without her even mentioning anything, he ran out to get some food for her. Although it had been 2 weeks, Yi Qingtang didn't feel hungry, nor was she thirsty. It felt as though she had just taken a nap, and other than the soreness in her body, she didn't feel any abnormalities. She tried to get up from the bed, but when she pulled the blanket, she woke Little White Tiger up. Little White Tiger raised its eyes, looking at Yi Qingtang, and the corners of its mouth twitched. What kind of expression is that? You're finally awake. I thought that you weren't going to wake up forever if you took any longer. Little White Tiger stretched its body before jumping off the bed. I have no idea why I slept for so long either. Little White Tiger was stunned. You have no idea? Yi Qingtang nodded. Little White Tiger looked at Yi Qingtang with a suspicious gaze. Does your body feel different? Yi Qingtang couldn't understand why Little White Tiger asked her that. She lowered her eyes, only noticing her soaking wet clothes, and nothing else was different. She hadn't grown an extra hand. The corners of the Little White Tiger's mouth twitched again. Check your powers. Yi Qingtang was perplexed, but she continued to check the powers within her body. She was completely astonished by the results. What the hell? What the heck happened? Seeing Yi Qingtang's shocked expression, Little White Tiger said, You're the first in the world to increase your level by just sleeping. This is strange. I only saw you absorbing the energy from the spirit stones in the mystic realm. You did nothing else, and yet, you achieved breakthrough this quickly. Yi Qingtang took a deep breath. Actually, those spirit stones are composed of spirit energy from the fat catfishes. Little White Tiger's eyes almost popped out hearing that. What did you just say? Chapter 1895, Massacre, 1. Yi Qingtang told Little White Tiger all about her time in the Crystal Palace and witnessing the fat catfish being demonized. In reality, she could not be sure if it was an actual demonization. That's strange. Those spirit stones don't look like they could be produced by living bodies. Little White Tiger was puzzled. Even though it found those spirit stones and fat catfish very strange, there was no way they could resolve their doubts now since they had already left the mystic realm. How do you feel now? Little White Tiger looked at Yi Qingtang. Little White Tiger felt that Yi Qingtang's recent breakthrough might not be a good thing. Bloated, Yi Qingtang rubbed her chest. Having slept for so long, she had not consumed anything, not even a drop of water. Even so, she felt extremely bloated, as if a big ball of power was still stuck somewhere in her body, not fully absorbed yet. Of course you are bloated. You absorbed so many spirit stones. I estimate that it will take some time before you completely digest all of that energy. The remaining power will probably just continue to linger in your body, Little White Tiger said. One bad thing about Yi Qingtang's sudden breakthrough was the risk of her exploding to death. It was a miracle that she had managed to hold on until now. Yi Qingtang believed that it was mainly thanks to the deity Ocean, which slowed down her absorption of the power to a tolerable pace that allowed for her body to take it in. On top of that, her devouring bloodline probably also aided her assimilation of all that energy. Although she was unable to completely absorb everything all at once, she could slowly convert all that energy over time. This was considered good news to Yi Qingtang. Yi Qingtang got out of bed and washed up, changing out of her dirty clothes. Since Jiang Xiaobai had also brought over some food for her, she finally felt somewhat refreshed. As they had lingered on this island for quite some time now, Bailey Shi and the rest had left long before. Yi Qingtang didn't plan to stay much longer on this island. Together with Jiang Xiaobai and Little White Tiger, they left the island of immortal footsteps and headed back to Taiyuan Valley. They traveled quickly, not stopping until they arrived at the borders of Taiyuan Valley. Sister Qing, what do you think Jiang Yixing's reaction would be if I told him that his beloved goddess is actually a man? A sly grin was on Jiang Xiaobai's face. Yi Qingtang remained silent. This young fellow had been rather quiet during the entire way home, so it was because he had been nursing such a thought. The two of them entered Taiyuan Valley with grins on their faces. But the front square of Taiyuan Valley was completely empty. There was no one around at all. It's already late morning. Why is there no one out here training? Don't tell me. The elders are in a good mood and gave everyone a day off? Jiang Xiaobai scanned the surroundings, feeling very puzzled. On a typical day, the square would be filled with large groups of youngsters training from the moment the sun rose. The elders would also make frequent appearances to make sure no one skived. But it was all empty today. It was a rare sight. Sister Qing, you must be tired. Why don't you go back to rest first? I need to report to Elder Qian about some matters. Jiang Xiaobai gave Yi Qingtang a wave before scurrying off. Yi Qingtang was indeed feeling rather tired, and made to return to her place to rest. She would then mull over what to do next. But as she walked past the square, Yi Qingtang felt that something just didn't feel right. It was too quiet in the entire Taiyuan Valley. Apart from the chirping of birds and scuttling of bugs across the ground, there were no other sounds at all. Yi Qingtang walked on for quite some time, but didn't encounter a single person. It was strange. Chapter 1896 Massacre 2. Where did everyone go? Little White Tiger also found it very strange. As Yi Qingtang pondered the situation, the faint scent of blood suddenly drifted into her nostrils. That scent had originated from the nearby practice hall. Almost instinctively, Yi Qingtang walked over to the hall. The main doors to the practice hall were closed. Standing outside, Yi Qingtang could not hear any sound at all. Stepping forward, Yi Qingtang pushed open the door. Her fingers made contact with something sticky on the handle. She pulled back her hand and saw that her fingers were stained a deep brown. That sticky stain gave off an intense smell of blood. Is this blood? Yi Qingtang was stunned. The door handles of the practice hall were deep brown, and any bloodstains on the surface were not immediately noticeable. A sense of unease suddenly arose in Yi Qingtang's heart. She pushed open the door, and was completely thunderstruck by what she saw inside. Nearly 100 rotting corpses were piled inside the large practice hall. Dried blood had pooled beneath those corpses, and the smell of blood and rotting flesh permeated the entire space. What happened? Wide eyes took in the hellish scene before her. Those corpses were garbed in the uniform of the Jiang family disciples. Yi Qingtang surveyed the debris left behind in the practice hall. She gasped when her gaze landed on a familiar face. Jiang Yisheng. Jiang Yisheng had collapsed in a corner of the practice hall. A huge splatter of blood stained the wall behind him. He laid limply against the wall, that handsome face completely drained of all color. One arm was visibly broken while white maggots feasted upon his open flesh wounds. Meanwhile, he remained completely still, as if in a coma or dead. No, Jiang Yisheng was dead, and he had been dead for quite some time. Yi Qingtang felt like a huge rock was pressing down on her chest. It was so heavy that she couldn't breathe. Nearby, Jiang Yiran and Jiang Yanyan's bodies were piled together. The cheeky Jiang Yiran had his entire lower jaw ripped off. Left with only half a face, his eyes remained wide open in a vicious expression. One of Jiang Yanyan's hand was under Jiang Yiran's body. He had collapsed face down, and a gaping hole could be seen on his upper back. The hole penetrated all the way through to the front of his chest. It looked like he was trying to lead Jiang Yiran away, but failed to escape the nightmarish scene. What the hell happened? Yi Qingtang's eyes were filled with shock. Everywhere she looked, the morbid scene of death met her eyes. All of these Taiyuan Valley youths were talented and gifted practitioners, especially Jiang Yanyan. His abilities were on par with the most powerful practitioners of his generation in Central Mainland. What kind of people could kill all of them in such a terrible manner? Even Jiang Yanyan didn't manage to escape? What happened here? How did all these people end up dead? Little White Tiger was also stunned by the scene. They had gone to the Immortal Footsteps mystic realm, only to return and find everyone in Taiyuan Valley dead? Yi Qingtang looked extremely grim. A startling thought suddenly entered her mind. Shit Xiaobai. Yi Qingtang didn't know who killed everyone here. She also didn't know if those people were still in Taiyuan Valley. Chapter 1897, Massacre 3. She was now very worried about Jiang Xiaobai. Without any hesitation, Yi Qingtang headed toward the Elder's Hall with Little White Tiger in her arms. On the way there, she could see bloodstains and the fallen bodies of Jiang family disciples all around. Foreboding thoughts wreaked havoc on her mind, and Yi Qingtang felt increasingly fretful. The back area of Taiyuan Valley was covered in blood. Those fallen disciples had encountered wretched deaths by the side of the road. Yi Qingtang charged toward the Elder's Hall. By the time she stood before the hall, her face had turned completely pale. Within the hall, Elder Qian and the others were all sitting in the middle. Elder Qian. Yi Qingtang's lips quivered as she stared at the elder sitting upon a chair, his head drooping downward. She could smell the thick, pungent scent of blood. Elder Qian was sitting there like how he always used to, but he was motionless and his arms had been nailed to the chair handles with 2 thick iron nails. His shoulders had been nailed to the back of the chair, while his legs were nailed to the legs of the chair. Blood had flowed out of Elder Qian's wounds and mingled with the blood of the other elders, staining the floor of the Elder's Hall into a dark crimson. Elder Qian was dead. The other elders in Taiyuan Valley were all dead. They had been nailed to their chairs. The whole scene was filled with blatant mockery and macabre satire. They looked like toys that could be manipulated however one pleased. Xiaobai. Yi Qingtang's unease grew deeper. She scurried about trying to find Jiang Xiaobai. In the end, she noticed a fresh set of footprints on the bloodied floor. The footprints were somewhat messy, and they led right out of the hall. Yi Qingtang followed the footprints left behind by Jiang Xiaobai. She spotted him on the front square. Sister Qing. Jiang Xiaobai seemed to have felt Yi Qingtang's presence. He slowly turned around. There was a crooked smile on his usually cheerful face. Everyone seems to be dead. When she saw Jiang Xiaobai, Yi Qingtang heaved a sigh of relief. Thank goodness he was fine. We cannot stay here. We must return to the Jiang family residence and inform the domain monarch. Yi Qingtang didn't know what had happened, but instinctively knew that it was dangerous to linger here in Taiyuan Valley. He nodded before he paused and asked, "Did you see Jiang Yixing?" Yi Qingtang was momentarily taken aback. She was silent for a moment before replying, "Yes, I saw him." "Dead?" Yi Qingtang nodded almost imperceptibly, the image of his rotting body flashing past her mind. A bitter smile twisted on Jiang Xiaobai's face. Should have expected that. Even Elder Qian and the others couldn't escape death. He is so lousy, how could he have survived? At this, Yi Qingtang didn't know how to reply. She was also feeling very upset at their deaths. Jiang Yixing was the first Jiang family disciple I met after I arrived at Taiyuan Valley. He was very arrogant but became more humble after I gave him a good thrashing. Jiang Xiaobai's voice sounded a little hoarse. Yi Qingtang lowered her eyes. She had no idea how to comfort him. "Sister Qing, let's go back to the Jiang family residence. The domain monarch will be able to find out who did this. I must avenge that silly Jiang Yixing." Jiang Xiaobai took a deep breath. Yi Qingtang nodded again. She knew how terrible Jiang Xiaobai must be feeling. It was useless for her to say anything else now. This was a blood debt that could only be repaid by finding the identity of the murderers. Chapter 1898, Massacre 4. Yi Qingtang and Jiang Xiaobai immediately headed to the Jiang family residence. They wanted to report on everything they had seen at Taiyuan Valley. But when Yi Qingtang and Jiang Xiaobai arrived, they were completely thunderstruck by the scene that greeted them. The formerly grand and magnificent Jiang family residence was now a wreck. Bodies of several Jiang family guards were strewn outside the main gates of the residence. A deep sense of foreboding rose in Yi Qingtang's mind. Could it be even the Jiang family? A buzzing sound hounded Yi Qingtang's ears as images of Moe and Jiang Lang surfaced in her mind's eye. Before Jiang Xiaobai could say a word, Yi Qingtang dashed into the Jiang family residence. It was a bloodbath within the compound. Blood was splattered everywhere as corpses covered nearly every inch of the ground. Yi Qingtang quickly scanned through all the bodies, terrified that she might recognize a familiar face. Jiang Xiaobai followed her in. His face turned completely pallid at the sight. The pair decided to split up to see what they could find in the compound. As Yi Qingtang hurried over to Jiang Lang and Moe's lodgings, The eerie quietness seemed to pervade all her senses. Yi Qingtang subconsciously slowed down her steps. She swallowed the unease rising in her throat. Jiang Lang and Moe were not her biological parents, but their care and protection made Yi Qingtang feel like they were her real family. They were like Yi Ling, who had raised her in Lin Town. Jiang Lang and Moe's courtyard was empty. Just as Yi Qingtang was about to enter the rooms, she heard a blood-curdling scream. Xiaobai! Yi Qingtang's heart leaped at that familiar voice. She was about to run toward the source of the scream, when a bloodied figure suddenly leaped across the walls. In the next second, the person fell heavily right in front of Yi Qingtang. The person was bleeding profusely. Jiang Xiaobai, who had been perfectly fine just minutes ago, was now in dire straits. There was a deep wound on his head from which bright red blood kept pouring out. The rest of his body was covered with burn marks, such that not a clear inch of his originally smooth skin could be seen. Run! Jiang Xiaobai glanced up at Yi Qingtang before he drew up the last of his strength to gasp out his final word. He then collapsed onto the ground, eyes closing for the last time. Shit, someone's after him. I can feel that person's aura. It's powerful beyond belief. Little White Tiger could instinctively feel that danger was approaching fast. Within seconds, Little White Tiger morphed into its larger form. We have to go. Little White Tiger's instincts told it that they would perish here if they lingered on, and were caught up by their pursuer. Yi Qingtang didn't hesitate. Scooping up Jiang Xiaobai from the floor, she jumped onto the White Tiger's back. Little White Tiger leaped out of the courtyard and fled as fast as it could. Just as they left, a figure landed on the spot formerly occupied by the pair. The ground of the courtyard cracked open the moment the figure touched the floor. Oh, the rats have scurried away. A low voice with a hint of amusement echoed through the deadly silence of the courtyard. Chapter 1899. Massacre 5. White Tiger sprinted forward with Yi Qingtang and Jiang Xiaobai on its back. Blood continued to pour forth from Jiang Xiaobai's wound, while Yi Qingtang's heart pounded heavily. It was only after White Tiger confirmed that no one was pursuing them that Yi Qingtang finally told it to find a safe spot at the foot of the mountain to take a rest. Jiang Xiaobai was gravely injured. He was unconscious, and his entire body felt feverish to the touch. It was like a ball of fire that had been ignited in his body. Without leaving any for herself, Yi Qingtang administered all of her sacred healing elixirs to Jiang Xiaobai. It was only then that his breathing finally became more steady. Yi Qingtang started to clean up his wound. She drew back in shock, and nearly stopped breathing when she saw the deep gash and the shattered skull bone beneath. Jiang Xiaobai's powers were a mystery to her. Yi Qingtang had never sparred with Jiang Xiaobai before, but following her recent breakthrough, she could feel that Jiang Xiaobai's powers were far beyond that of Jiang Yanyan's. In fact, he must have already attained the sixth heaven of the heavenly venerate realm. Also, he was powerful enough to stand shoulder to shoulder with Bailey Shi from the first martial arts championship. But she had just left Jiang Xiaobai's side for a few minutes. How had someone already managed to cause such grievous injuries to him? It was strange. Yi Qingtang hadn't even heard the slightest hint of a skirmish. From that, it was clear that the fight was a one-sided battle, with Jiang Xiaobai on the losing end. Someone formidable enough to completely overpower Jiang Xiaobai. That person must be at least 2 levels higher than him. Yi Qingtang found the situation increasingly bizarre. Taiyuan Valley had been destroyed. The Jiang family residence was also desecrated. As much as Yi Qingtang wanted to get to the bottom of this, she was unable to return to the Jiang family residence to investigate the matter. That person was still at the Jiang family residence. Who the hell was that person? Unfortunately, only Jiang Xiaobai would know. Yi Qingtang didn't dare to move Jiang Xiaobai due to his serious injuries. She had no choice but to lay low with him for the moment so that he could recuperate. Now they could no longer return to the Jiang family residence. Even though Yi Qingtang desperately wished to know whether Jiang Lang and his wife Jiang Sun were safe. As for the identity of that person, they had no choice but to wait until Jiang Xiaobai regained consciousness. Yi Qingtang decided to let Little White Tiger stand guard in case the person secretly caught up with them. Meanwhile, she would concentrate on taking care of Jiang Xiaobai. Jiang Xiaobai slept for 7 consecutive days. On the 8th day, Jiang Xiaobai uttered a low groan. Yi Qingtang immediately turned toward him. Xiaobai. Jiang Xiaobai slowly opened his eyes. His pale face was dazed as he stared at Yi Qingtang with his head slightly tilted. Xiaobai, how are you feeling? Jiang Xiaobai didn't reply, but just continued staring at Yi Qingtang. There was no expression on his face, and his calmness disturbed Yi Qingtang. Xiaobai. Yi Qingtang repeated. Suddenly Jiang Xiaobai blinked, then he opened his mouth. Xiaobai. Yi Qingtang was stunned. A shocking thought popped into her mind as she glanced hesitantly at the youth. Jiang Xiaobai. Jiang Xiaobai, he repeated dully. Yi Qingtang was completely thunderstruck. She stared into Jiang Xiaobai's empty eyes. That intelligent and impish face was now as simple and befuddled as a child's. He Xiaobai. Jiang Xiaobai suddenly giggled as he looked at Yi Qingtang's stiff expression. He repeated his name and lifted his injured hand to touch Yi Qingtang's face. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.